Evening, and first I want to thank all of you guys for coming and joining us this evening. I want you to know that each time we do this, we expect the crowd to get bigger and bigger. These are very important forums. So right now, I don't care if you get on your phones, text your friends, and tell them to come. We are here for a while, so they still have time to get here. So first, I'm going to start with an introduction of myself. My name is Christy Poe. I am the Vice President of FORR, which is Focus on Race Relations. Focus on Race Relations is an organization that encourages open and honest face-to-face conversations about race and race-related issues in Frankfort and Franklin County. It's very important not only to us, but for all of us. I always liken racism to cancer. It may be inside of you, and just because you don't know it or don't pay attention to it, it's going to kill you at some point. The more you ignore it, the more it's going to eat your body. The only way to get rid of that cancer is to expose it. So that's kind of what our purpose is. We are trying to expose it so that we can talk about it. We will not always agree, but as long as we can find a common ground, that's what we strive for. So I am going to bring up, since FORR is also working tonight with South Frankfort Neighborhood Association, Natalie Cleveland, who is the president, and we're going to let her introduce herself.
Hi everyone. I don't have a fancy speech prepared, but I'm Natalie Cleveland, and I just want to thank all of you all for being here on behalf of South Frankfort Neighborhood Association. We have been, really trying to get this going so that our community knows about all of our candidates and where they can vote, different things like that. We had a lot of people who in South Frankfort who didn't know who people were the last time we voted, who didn't know where they went to vote. So South Frankfort Neighborhood Association wants to make sure that we do our part in making sure that our neighbors know. Thank you all.
All right, guys, so I thought what I'd do is just go over a little housekeeping before we get started. I'm going to tell you how we're going to run the forum. If you've been to any of FORR's candidate forums before, then you kind of know how we're set up. But I just wanted to read the rules so that the candidates are aware as well. So this evening, the candidates are going to be provided with 2 minutes to make introductory remarks. Next, they're going to be asked to respond to forum questions, and those questions are sourced from both South Frankfort Neighborhood Association and FORR. Now, let me ask you a question. Does anyone mind if it's your question or if it's South Frankfort Neighborhood Association, do you want me to say South Frankfort Neighborhood Association or FORR? Does that make a difference to anyone? No. Good, because I did not do that. All right, so the forum questions, again, will be comprised of both of our groups. Candidates are going to be limited to 1-minute responses for each question. Each candidate will have 1 minute to then provide a closing statement after those questions, and there are 3 total for all of the groups, 4 for some. After those closing statements, we're going to encourage audience members to ask questions of the candidate. And you can come up front, and it's each time they finish, we're going to have you come up and welcome you to ask a question that you may want to know. Now, we do ask you to make sure that it's not personal. It needs to be generalized so that each candidate is able to answer the question that's personal to them. But just no names is what I'm saying. So we are going to get started this evening with our sheriff candidate because our jailer candidate did not come. He is running unopposed and chose not to, and that is his choice. So I am going to be posting the questions that we had for the jailer in hopes that he will still answer. So if you do have questions for the jailer, please get them to us and we'll make sure that he answers those as well. Okay? So Steve, we are going to start now with your minute introduction.
Thank you. Is there a certain camera or just a certain frame you want to address, or that's not how your camera's set up?
Oh,
You want to address, or
the audience.
just the audience.
Yes.
Can't see, it's a little dark out there, so.
Yeah.
First of all, I want to say thank you for having this event and giving me an opportunity to attend. Again, my name is Steve Sutton, and I'm the Republican candidate for sheriff. I'm a lifelong resident of Franklin County. I graduated from Franklin County High School, and then went on to Kentucky State University, where I graduated in the summer of 1995 with a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. I was then hired by the Frankfort Police Department in November of '95. I retired from Frankfort Police with 20 years of service at the rank of lieutenant. In between them, this last 7 years of my retirement, I've kind of been a couple of other local agencies in private sector. But I'm still have my career working on my 27th year this year. Of those 27 years, about 16 years have been the supervisory level, 3 years at the first line, about 13 years at the administrative level, and 3 years at the executive level as I serve as the current chief of police for a local area school district. My wife and daughter could not make tonight. My son is away from college, but again, I vested roots here in Franklin County. And thank you again for having me.
All right, thank you so much. Now, I think we need to give Steve a little round of applause because he was brave enough to do this by himself. He is up there alone, so we're not going to put him through too much this evening, okay? So, Steve, our first question for you as candidate for sheriff, describe your law enforcement philosophy.
It's kind of what I used to give a lot of officers, younger officers work for me, it's just that common sense. Law enforcement, again, it's very technical, a very technical career because you have certain laws you have to abide by, and that there's a black and white book of what the laws say. I'm a huge fan of Andy Griffith. There's a great episode where Barney did that. Tried to use that a little bit too much, and Sheriff Andy finally said, let's use some common sense out there. I have a very community and order philosophy. I'll congratulate Sheriff FORR for what he does in that area. I will say I'm impressed with what he does with that. I'll be that same kind of sheriff. I'll be out here doing these community events. One thing I like to really focus on, being in the school district, I've really learned, I never had that in my career. It was always a negative time usually when I dealt with people who went to a house, obviously, because a lot of times you don't call the police when good things are happening. That young mentoring for it, I want to see my deputies get involved in that, and I'd like to see us become more involved, especially like youth sports activities.
Thank you very much. Following up on that, using this philosophy, how will you ensure that your deputies are policing members of the community equitably?
I wouldn't accept any less. I pride myself in my work ethic. I was a 20-year officer at Frankfort Police Department. I was a very active officer in my younger days. As I grew into supervision, I still remained very active and being out there in the community. One thing about it in my career is sometimes hard policing in your own community where I grew up. A lot of times I did have interactions with my friends who sometimes weren't pleased with seeing me that day. But one thing I'm proud of saying, in that 20 years of service, I had 0 formal complaints in my career, 0 departmental discipline, and I think that says a lot about where I stand. I would not put up for anything less from my deputies. If I find out they're doing any kind of activity that does not meet the standards that I perceive, it will be addressed swiftly and severely.
Thank you. Next question. What is your definition of diversity?
It's a tough question. I think it's overall general community makeup. I don't like seeing numbers being used specifically. I think numbers can be sometimes swayed. You look at traffic stops, which a lot of police look at, or certain arrests in certain areas. I think you have to look at the numerous factors in those diversity findings. Sometimes you say, well, if an officer works third shift or a certain area of town, there is certain populations, Frankfort is just like every other community, there are certain areas that are more prone to violence, and many times you run into that. I think, again, you can't look at numbers, and you have to look at diversity total, about independent.
Okay. So, just to do a little background, that is more how you view diversity, but if you were to give a definition of what diversity means to you, like let's say diversity within the sheriff's department, expand a little bit on that.
I think I'll try to do my best to be a diverse department. When we talk about is hiring and retaining deputies, and again, Sheriff FORR, I'll give credit where credit's due. I think he's doing a good job at that. As sheriff, though, I think sometimes, or any chief executive of a law enforcement agency, I'll have to look at all candidates. I'll pick the best candidate I believe that can do the job. I will promote the best candidate, and I will discipline as I see fit with no matter who it is. I don't look at that. That's just the way I perceive it.
Okay, thank you very much. Last question for you this evening. To date, The Sheriff's Office has worked closely with FORR when diversity and/or discrimination issues are raised. If elected, will you continue this working relationship, or will you go another way?
I will have an open door policy, and anybody in my community, they're more welcome to come in and see me for any concern. Any praise, of course, we gladly accept. I've had that all my career, still have currently today. Everybody's welcome. I will say some of the things one thing I do differ from Sheriff Choir in is I'm not a fan of a civilian review board, or if it's changed to a different wording, maybe a community involvement board. The reason why I say that, it's nothing negative. I will take input. I encourage input. But my theory is if you put the right person in office, you should have 100% trust and faith that person's going to do the right thing for you. If not, then you pick the wrong person. If you have to come in and sit down and have a group to say, hey, this is who we should hire, this is who we should promote, this is how we discipline, I think you pick the wrong person. I assure you, I'm vested in this community, everybody in this community, and you would all get a fair share with me if I'm elected sheriff.
Okay, thank you very much. That is all of the questions that we had for the sheriff this evening. I'd like to open it up to audience participation at this time. If you don't mind to just kind of walk forward if you have a question, because we do have a speaker that will allow your voice to carry a little bit. So do we have any questions this evening for our sheriff candidate? Come on, we gotta have some. Somebody? Because I have some. Okay, that's fine. So, my question to you then, and going off of what you said about the civilian or community advisory board is kind of what we posed.
Yes.
In a lot of cases, what we find is the community feels a slight disconnect between the sheriff's office and the community. So the purpose of that board is to make sure that there is kind of a liaison so that they feel comfortable sharing those issues and the sheriff feels comfortable telling us, hey, we can address that, or hey, that's not something that we can address. Explain to me how, in the absence of having such a panel, you would be able to make the community feel comfortable enough to approach you or your deputies with the issues that they feel like might be caused by you or your deputies.
Again, I just go back to my reputation in this town. I've been here 50 years, police for many years. I know you personally from school. Anybody knows me knows how I conduct myself. I love the liaison part. I think that's a great idea, and I will continue that. I just have a difference in opinion of the board. Again, I just go back to what I said before. If you put the right person in office, you should have full faith and trust in me, and I assure you, you should. I'm that kind of person. If you want to be a liaison, or if that board wants to put somebody together, and like I say, any community member, you have a problem, concern, I'm telling you right now, come to my door, you can come in, sit down with me, and we'll discuss it. We not, like you said earlier, we don't always agree. That's human nature, it is what it is. I'm going to do what I think is the right thing. I'm not going to do anything else any less than that.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Katima, please.
Going back to the board, just kind of piggybacking off of that, for the people within your community that doesn't feel comfortable always coming to the police or trusting the police, having that community civilian board, I feel like gives them somebody to go through, to communicate with, and to build that relationship. So taking that away, how do you foresee yourself building trust within that community?
One thing I really think I would build that trust on, and again, it goes back to the school resource officer program. And one reason why I address that tonight, because I am the chief for a local school district. What I've learned there, and my school is a very diverse school, very, very diverse, socioeconomic status, race, gender. That is where I think we're really going to build that relationship from those events. We deal with those kids every day. That continues on back to tonight. The SR program in Franklin County is growing. Nothing to the fault of the sheriff's department or the school board. It's just a funding issue with the legislators. Now, if you do know legislature, we'll kind of put that plug in. The SROs were supposed to be in every school as of August this year. Unfortunately, that was not funded. I will say the sheriff's department has increased. I think they're up to 6 now. Not quite every school. I'm fortunate enough that in my district we have 1 in every school already. And I think that's where it starts, and that's what I want to do. And again, I want to talk about athletics. That's a huge one to me. I believe I spoke to you, Mrs. Smith-Willis, I had Jordan back in many, many years ago, back in Little League Baseball. I think that's a great, great opportunity to sit down with these parents and they see you instead of a uniform, you're in that coach's outfit. And we say, what's that got to do with law enforcement? Again, it's that community involvement, that hands-on trust. Those kids, those parents drop those kids off to you for 2 hours and expect you to teach them some discipline, some certain skills, life skills they need. It's not just coaching athletics. And that's what I plan on using to build that relationship. And I assure you, just because I'm not a fan of the board point. If there's a liaison, I think it'd be a great contact person that I work with directly. I got to do that for that 100%. For having a direct person, that direct line of communication where you feel, if you couldn't come to me personally, if you want to be, I'm using you for example, Christy, hey, let's call Christy, let her talk to Steve. And if they talk to you and you'd like to come in and sit with them, I'm all for that.
All right. Go ahead.
Okay, I read the newspaper and I see regularly that there are issues with people with drug issues, hard drugs, related to crime. So I guess my question to you is, what do you want to do differently than what's currently being done to address that problem in Frankfort County?
Sure. That's a little bit of my closing, so I might repeat myself in a minute, but just kind of, since that's the question, I will say a little bit about that. In my career, I've seen it every day. Drugs and alcohol enforcement are the root behind many things we deal with, whether it's domestic violence, child abuse, theft, assault, robbery. There's usually a key tie to drugs somewhere. That's just a sense. What I've done this summer, I was fortunate enough in my new position to have some time off, which I never had in my career, and it's nice that one thing about plugging about a school district officer. But when I went around, I met with a recovery group. I met a young man through my school. I had this child in my school, and I knew he was a recovering addict. And we had some conversations. I don't want to identify the group because they aren't here. But so what I did during the summer, I asked permission to come and sit down with them, and they granted me that permission. I went into the recovery center, and I looked at different ideas to see what worked for some of them. Some of them it was incarceration. They laid out, said, hey, I had to go to jail nonetheless. Some of them said it was forced recovery, ordered by the courts. And I wanted to see too, what was some of those root causes? Was it just you were seeing it in your home as a child, you just kind of picked up the habit? Were you in a car wreck and started using some of those prescribed medications and that kind of went off the wire and it continued to addiction? Is it because you have a mental health problem, which is often tied to those drug issues? And part of my closing, I want to discuss that. That's what I would work closely with the courts, the mental health aspect. Other law enforcement agencies to have a partnership to figure out some of these causes, and I will speak more in my closing. I think I'll give a bit more comment on that. So.
Okay. Anybody else out there in the audience with a question?
I think I have a question. Can you hear me?
I can hear you fine. Yeah.
Okay, great. My question is regarding homelessness and resources for that. I know the Frankfort Police Department has a social worker, a full-time social worker, but it's just one of her for our entire city and county. If you are elective sheriff, do you have any plans to incorporate that into your force, I guess that's
A social worker?
a social
Some
worker
kind of
that
program
would
like that?
work with the community in respects to homelessness, addressing those issues and helping with those.
Right.
Did you all in
Homelessness.
the back catch that? I just want to make sure everyone can hear the questions. Yes? Okay.
Homelessness, direct as far as a law enforcement issue, it's not a direct area. Again, homelessness, a lot of times mental health is there. A lot of drug addicts come in from that issue as well. So it is part of something we deal with. That's not something as a sheriff firsthand. We're going to have to do policy and creation of shelters and such as that. I do believe the social worker program, I talked about that in the primary forum. I don't know if the sheriff, I cannot speak on them, if they have one full-time staff for that. I believe it is a good idea to look into. Something that does come back to funding, it's one thing you have to look at is how we fund that position if we create it. I definitely think it's worth looking into. I've heard good things.
Right now,
It's
it's
in-
not a field position.
Not a field position. Again, I couldn't answer that question because I just don't know the answer, and I'm glad you told me that. If it is budgeted, I think it would be a very, very good thing to look into. I still communicate with members from the Frankfort Police. I still know the guys there, and I think there's been some success with that. So I think if there's a place and funding for it, obviously that'd be something I would consider establishing with the Sheriff's Department.
Okay. Let me just make sure that I don't have any audience questions on my laptop here for you. No, none for you specifically. Lisa, if you don't mind, let's go to your closing.
Thank you. First of all, law enforcement, like in many professions out there, especially in today's times, we're all wearing many hats. Some see the sheriff's department, again, this is traditional back hundreds of years ago. They were your primary, back when you watched the Westerns. But you consider your tax collector, your election involvement, and law enforcement is kind of generally seen as that small portion of the sheriff's department. Elections in general, except for the last precinct year, are really one day in May and one day in November. Tax collection is one part of the year, but for the other 12 months and around 360 days of the year, our primary role will be law enforcement. I think it was lacking sometime in my career. Frankfort Police has plenty of coverage in the city, so my deputies will be out mainly enforcing we're a very rural county, and I want to see their presence out there. Everybody's shorthanded, every law enforcement agency, I don't care which one it is. And that's what I want to kind of see, that go back to that law enforcement role will be our true role out there. I'm the law and order candidate of this group. Enforcement will be our primary, again, that's our primary role out there. My deputies will strictly enforce the law by the book. I want to emphasize by the book. As crimes attack every community, I will work with community members. So they are extra eyes and ears. One thing I preach to my kids in my school, and I kind of educated it down, rooted it down to it. I'm an officer in the elementary school. I'm the chief for a district, but I have my own school. And I kind of do cartoon pictures. I have a big set of cartoon eyes, Dumbo the elephant with big ears and a big smiley face. See something, hear something, say something. Because many times when they see the police car and the in-horn, what the criminals do, they turn the other way. The community is our eyes and ears. You know who's out there committing these crimes. This is true. But we got to go back to building that trust. I will say it's been a 27-year career problem I've seen is that getting that communication back and forth to the community and having that trust to come speak to us. Because if you don't, we're going to have a hard time. Be kind of spinning our wheels. To answer, kind of go back to your question, drugs are rampant and they're linked to most criminal activities, as I've said. Like I talked about, met with
That's
mental
your
health.
time. I'm so
Oh,
sorry.
I'm sorry. I didn't know.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Let's give Steve a round of applause. Steve Sutton, candidate for sheriff. Thank you so much, Steve.
Again, thank you for having me.
All right, no problem. All right, ladies and gentlemen. So just to go over one more time, because I think I was wrong the first time, you all will have 2 minutes to make your introductory remarks. Then I've got a few questions for you. You'll be given 1 minute to answer each question. After that, I am going to go ahead and open it up to the audience prior to you doing your 1 minute close, because I think that just works out better in case you want to add something in your closing from the audience questions. Does that work for you guys?
Absolutely.
All right, ladies first.
All right, thank you. And thank you both to South Frankfort Neighborhood Association, Natalie, FORR, Mr. Poe, Christy, thank you very much for having us here tonight. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about first who I am and what I stand for. My name is Kate Bennett. I'm a candidate for Franklin County Attorney. I'm a career prosecutor. I started prosecuting juvenile and child support crimes in 2011. Over the course of my prosecutorial career, I was appointed as Section Chief of Crimes Against Children Prosecution at the Kenton County Commonwealth Attorney's Office. As part of that, I worked with a team of attorneys that prosecuted the low-level felonies, and my job was to prosecute any crime that had a major crime, rape, sodomy, murder, anything that involved a child victim. After that, I got pregnant with the love of my life, my 6-year-old son, Colt, and had the opportunity to come home and come to Frankfort in 2016, come where my family has lived since the 1950s. And I came home and decided, worked for state government for a few years, but knew that that wasn't what I was called to do. Prosecution to me is not a job, it's a calling. So I began prosecuting again, and in February of this year, I had the opportunity to go to the Fayette County Attorney's Office to learn some of their systems there as well. This campaign is about listening. It's about listening and finding out the why things are happening in our community, why and how we can fix it. This campaign focuses on crime, kids, and our community, and I look forward to answering your questions and talk about that in the next few minutes.
Thank you so much, Kate. There goes my fan. And we will move on to Max.
She's got that all the time, everywhere.
Thank you very much. Thank you to FORR. Thank you to the South Frankfort Neighborhood Association for having us down here today to be able to speak with all of you all. To all the people there watching this through the Frankfort Plant Board and on the live stream, if that's up and going at this point in time. Thank you all for tuning in and becoming informed about this election, as it is a very important election. My name is Max Comley. I was born and raised here in Franklin County. I was born out there at King's Daughters Hospital, attended Collins Lane Elementary School, went to Elkhorn Middle School, and graduated from Franklin County High School back in 1997. While in high school, played some sports, a little basketball, a little football, and was able to get a academic and athletic scholarship and attended Campbellsville University, where I received a degree in history, then came back for 1 year and taught school at Bonnert Middle School. I taught special ed. After teaching special ed for 1 year, I then went on to the University of Kentucky, where I attended law school. While in law school, I was a summer clerk for Logan and Gaines. That was the firm at the time. It has now changed. And in 2005, when I graduated from law school, I started clerking and I was an associate there at Logan and Gaines, and worked there until about 2009, 2010. I've had my own private practice here in Franklin County since 2010 with Bullock and Kaufman. I'm a partner there. It is a general practice law firm. I am a general practice practitioner. I do both civil and criminal cases. I've been through that firm and through the works that I've done in this community, not only the private practice that I've got, but I've also done public defender conflict work since 2010. I've represented children and families in dependency, neglect, and abuse courts. I have represented mentally...
That's your time, Max. Thank you so much. All right, we'll get to the first question. We're going to go back to Kate. If elected as county attorney, please define what will be your priorities.
Thank you, Christy. Again, crime, kids, and community. Let's talk about crime. I think this is one of the things that, when speaking to people on the campaign trail, has been very powerful. Franklin County has the third highest violent crime rate of any non-metropolitan county in this state. Let that sink in for a minute and think about that. I'm the only candidate that has been a prosecutor, and that's what I've made my career doing. Franklin County needs someone that is familiar with the law enforcement community and also familiar with the community itself. It was endorsed by the state Fraternal Order of Police as the candidate in this race. As far as crime is concerned, how do we fix that? That goes to the kid part. Part of what a county attorney does is juvenile prosecution. And we talk about juvenile prosecution, and I don't think there's a person in this room that doesn't think that the criminal justice system is broken. And how do we fix it? It's not locking children up. It's not taking these juveniles and putting them in a state facility. It is partnering with these community resources and community organizations.
That's your minute, Kate?
Thanks.
Thank you so much. I know it goes quick. Thank you. We'll let you circle back around also in your closing. Max, same question. If elected as county attorney, please define what will be your priorities.
My priorities while in office, the first one being, I've been practicing here for 17 years, and I've seen the drug epidemic grow, increase, and change to where we are losing members of our society and our community almost on a daily basis. The drugs are getting harsher. They are getting more addictive. So as the number one priority for when I take office, I want to start a drug court here in Franklin County for the district court. We currently have one for circuit court, but not for the district court. District court serves about 17,000 people per year, where the circuit court serves about 200 per year. So you can get a more wide range of people. That a lot of times the district court is their first introduction into the court system. I want to be able to address this drug epidemic on a quick basis, and when people hopefully are starting their addiction, as opposed to when it's been going on for numerous years, to when they start picking up the felonies. The second thing that I would like to do is to start a mental health court. We have a lot of people that have mental health issues, and there's a revolving door at the jail with these people who are unable to sustain treatment, who are unable...
That's your time.
Okay.
Thank you so much. And you guys can finish your sentence, I'm sorry, when I tell you it's time.
Brent, we need like a 30-second warning.
Thank you both. Thank you both for that. Second question this evening. In what ways, and actually, Brent, I'm going to give them a minute 30 for this question because it's a little more. In what ways can you challenge your own biases so as to ensure that all those charged with an offense are treated with equality?
Challenging my own biases. We are faced every day in the legal system with people of all different races, nationalities, background, genders. You see all walks of life coming to both the criminal justice system and the civil system. I think there needs to be policies and procedures put in place with the county attorney's office. I think those policies and procedures need to be reviewed to make sure that there are no biases, whether racially, gender, or otherwise, that are taking place as far as the offers in cases or the way cases are handled. If complaints are made regarding overcharging, just say for instance, or the way that the police force is conducting themselves in the community, I think investigations need to be done about that. If there are complaints about biases or racial inequality in the way that sentences are recommended or sentences are handed out, I think investigations need to be done with that, and to make sure that everybody that stands before the court is on an equal playing field, whether it be because of a socioeconomic status, whether it be because of race, whether it be because of gender or whatever. We all need to stand in front of the court at the same level. And everybody needs to be able to get the same representation, and everybody needs to be treated fairly and equally. And so putting policies and procedures in place and having those policies and procedures regularly checked, I think, is vitally important.
Thank you so much. And Kate, same question, I'll repeat it just so that you have it. In what ways can you challenge your own biases so as to ensure that all those charged with an offense are treated with equality?
Thank you for that question, Christy. You know, I look at FORR and it encourages open, honest, face-to-face conversations about race and race-related issues. If you've been in the workplace, especially the criminal justice system, implicit bias, and you said my own, everyone has implicit biases. And that's something that we combat every day. But instead of putting policies and procedures into place to be reactive, I've already brought this idea to several folks in the community. I do want to create a citizens review board. And what does that mean? It means every 90 days we sit down and we break every single case and conviction that we've had, every single conviction that's come through, every offer that's been made, and what that conviction led to. We break it down by race. We break it down by gender. We break it down by age. We break it down by socioeconomics if we can figure that out. We break it down by geography, where these crimes are occurring and what these people are getting sentences for something that they do in South Frankfort or something that they do out in the county. That is the only way that we can keep ourselves accountable to make sure that implicit bias or explicit bias does not come in to the criminal justice system. If you don't wake up every morning as a prosecutor terrified with the amount of discretion that you have as a prosecutor, you need to get another job. It is a powerful job, it is a serious job, but it is our job to make sure, and I've already recruited, some people volunteered, some people I told them they had to, at least 12 people that are willing to sit on the Citizens Review Board and do this with us every single 90 days.
That's your time. Thank you so much. And the last question that we've put together before we open it up for audience, with the greater acceptance of marijuana, Illinois has legalized recreational use, for example. Do you feel that the current sentencing for such offenses is acceptable or needs to be reevaluated? If so, or if not, why? Let me read that one more time because I stumbled. With the greater acceptance of marijuana, Illinois has legalized recreational use, for example. Do you feel that the current sentencing for such offenses is acceptable or needs to be reevaluated? If so, or if not, why? Yes.
I think this could be broken down at a state and a federal level, and then we're also talking about possession of marijuana versus trafficking in marijuana. I don't think there's any person in here that thinks that somebody that's trafficking in serious amounts of something that's coming into the community, that's something that will likely be handled at the circuit court level. As far as marijuana is concerned in sentencing, I don't think it's appropriate for a prosecutor in any way, shape, or form, whether it be marijuana or any other drug or anything, for a prosecutor to decide and legislate and decide how they personally feel about it. The job of the prosecutor is to enforce the law. That has to do, you get prosecutorial discretion, how you handle those things. Do I think mandatory minimum sentences on a federal level for marijuana are ridiculous? On a personal level, absolutely. There's folks that have been in jail for quite some time over matters, involving marijuana that are absolutely absurd. But I think the job of a prosecutor is to stay in their lane. If it's the law will be enforced, but it will be done with prosecutorial discretion.
Thank you. Okay, Max, same question. With the greater acceptance of marijuana, Illinois has legalized recreational use, for example. Do you feel that the current sentencing for such offenses is acceptable or needs to be reevaluated? If so, or if not, why?
I believe that it needs to be reevaluated, but as a county attorney, that's not my job duties to reevaluate the statutes and the penalties that have been set by the legislature. So currently on the books, we have possession of marijuana offenses punishable by, I think it's 45 days in jail, which is absolutely ludicrous, which is not typically handed out in Franklin County. And as Franklin County attorney, I don't believe that that sentence is appropriate for possession of marijuana. I just read today, I believe, where President Biden has communicated all the sentences for the federal inmates who have been charged with possession of marijuana. And so I hope our state legislature will wake up and pass the appropriate legislation in order to legalize marijuana in the state of Kentucky. However, that has not been done up to this point in time. So as a prosecutor, I am forced and I will prosecute possession of marijuana crimes. Now, discretion, you have to look behind every case as to what's going on, whether it's a trafficking, whether it's a possession. There's multiple factors that you look at when making suggested sentences, and so those will all be taken into account when looking at possible recommendations as far as possession of marijuana or trafficking of marijuana.
Thank you so much. That was perfect timing. All right, guys. Now we're going to open it up to some audience questions. Does any member of the audience have a question for our candidates this evening? Please, if you don't mind, would you mind to step forward? If not, if you can project and make sure.
I can project.
Go. Katina's coming right to you.
The cable tend's not going to pick it up without that microphone. So.
Okay.
Let me go turn it just a little bit more for you.
Can you say something though so I can see how loud it is?
Yes. Woo.
Okay, you should be okay.
Sorry. How would you handle the child support, the delinquent parents that are not paying? Is that a big issue in Franklin County?
Both of you. We'll start with Max this time and then go to Kate.
I think Franklin County is collecting currently at about a 54% rate as far as child support. Franklin County, I think it's just a little over $2 million that they've collected the last couple of years in a row. I think the obligation is a little over $4 million. Something that I would like to see put into place is with some discretionary funds that the county attorney's office has, I would like to see social workers put in place, not only with the county attorney's office that handles child support, but also with the county attorney's office that handles criminal prosecutions, with the county attorney's office that handles child support. I'd like to be able to see that social worker help people to get employment. A lot of times child support is delinquent because of disability or through other things. And so to monitor what the status of that disability is, whether it's gone through, whether it hasn't gone through, in order to try to help get people to pay. As we have seen, as I have seen over my years of practice, if somebody is sitting in jail, they're not able to pay child support.
Thank you so much. Kate?
Thank you. And to break it down very simply, Franklin County in and of itself is over $2 million in child support arrears that is owed to either the county or it's owed to the state or it's owed to the individual. $2 million. That's $2 million that'll be going back to families here in Franklin County that frankly we all know are not going to be spent on exorbitant things. They're going to be spent on clothes, on feeding their kids. And today, the statistic came out, we're $1.4 billion in arrear in just this state itself. What I believe that I think, and I've seen this done in Fayette County, and what I'd like to institute is a child support specialty court. This makes individuals that are in arrears report every week and sometimes a month to the court and report to the county attorney's office. What jobs are you applying for? How are you going to pay this? What are your plans? And frankly, when someone is made to show back up to court that many times, that's going to incentivize them to pay. But we've got to get those $2 million back. And I believe that that's something, one of the first things that I want to do in office is to make sure that we are one of the #1 child support enforcement counties in the state.
Thank you so much, Kate. All right, thank you for that wonderful question. Do we have any more from the audience? Yes, sir, in the green shirt. Where's my Katina? There she is.
Will y'all prosecute crimes or pick and choose which crimes to prosecute?
Kate, we'll start with you.
So I might need a little clarification on that question.
In the big cities.
Give him the mic again so Kate can pick it up.
In the big cities, we see that the prosecutors are deciding which cases to prosecute, which ones they're not. Has that leaked down to Frankfort?
Okay.
Or will we continue to prosecute the crimes
I think
going forward?
Okay, thank you. I think I understand your question more. I have heard that on a national level and frankly in some of our counties here that are in Kentucky that, prosecutors have said, I'm not going to prosecute this crime. And I think Max and I both said it so far, that is not within the purview of the prosecutor's office. Your job is to enforce the law. It's not to decide which ones you can and cannot enforce. And frankly, I would believe it would be unethical, and I do believe when prosecutors say that and say, well, we're not going to enforce one type of law, I think it's unethical.
Go ahead, Max.
There absolutely is prosecutorial discretion. However, if elected county attorney, I will prosecute crimes, because that's the job that I'm being elected to do. So just like any other job that I've ever had in my life, I do the job that that I've been hired to do. And so prosecuting crimes will be the job that I do.
All right. Thank you so much. And we've got a question from Patricia. Our Mayor Pro Tem, by the way. Thank you for being here.
Thank you both for being here. My question is related to both of you two seem to be, in your opening statements, very busy with a lot of things going on right now in your jobs. So moving forward, if you're elected or when one of you are elected, how do you plan to do all the things that you have in store for Frankfort and represent and prosecute in the manner that needs to be if you're planning on still running your own practice or being involved in other things? How do you plan to put Frankfort and prosecution and the county first?
Kate, we'll start with you this time.
The job, again, of the county attorney, you're providing legal advice to the fiscal court. You're doing juvenile prosecution, you're doing dependency, neglect, and abuse actions, you're doing cold checks, you're doing misdemeanor prosecution, you're doing all the arraignments and preliminary hearings for felony prosecution. That is a full-time job. And I pledge to you as county, as somebody that, as your candidate for county attorney, but I pledge to you that will be my full-time job. I will not start a private practice, which county attorneys are allowed to do. I will not do that because there's too much in our community to do. And for us to be able to do that, we have to make it our full-time job.
Thank you so much, Max.
The county attorney's office has multiple employees, as it is impossible for one person to fill all of those roles at one time. Currently, we have great staff here at the Franklin County Attorney's Office, whether it be in the child support office or whether it be in the criminal division, I guess you would say, or in the prosecutors. We've got great employees. As far as running a private practice, it is not my intention to run a private practice. I've stopped taking new cases over the last several months, and it's my intention when elected to Franklin County Attorney to either wrap up all of my cases or get out of my cases. There may be one or two that linger on for a brief period of time, but it is not my intention to be a private practitioner in Franklin County Attorney, as I know the importance of the role of Franklin County Attorney, and I know the importance of having strong leadership and being present not only in the multiple courts that you have to preside over, or not preside over, but work in, but also with giving advice to the fiscal court and those meetings and everything that this job entails. So there's really no way to do both.
Thank you so much, Max. I actually have a question. I'll get to you guys too. I have a question that was emailed to me that I want to throw in. This one comes with a definition. Don't be offended if you know it. I'm glad she sent it because I did not. A U visa is set aside for immigrant crime victims who have suffered substantial mental or physical abuse and who are willing to assist law enforcement and government officials in the investigation or prosecution of the criminal activity. It permits such victims to enter or remain in the U.S. when they might not otherwise be able to do so. So the question is, to protect immigrant crime victims, will you pledge to adopt a U visa policy in your office that includes a rebuttable presumption of helpfulness, and the direction that U visa certifications be completed regardless of whether charges were brought, a conviction was achieved, or the case has concluded? Should I repeat that? Can I repeat that? One more time. To protect immigrant crime victims, will you pledge to adopt a U visa policy in your office that includes a rebuttable presumption of helpfulness and the direction that U visa certifications be completed regardless of whether charges were brought, a conviction was achieved, or the case has concluded? We'll start with Max.
I appreciate you starting with me with this question.
Not as much as Kate does.
Over my legal career, I have represented illegal immigrants through my practice, and I understand the struggles that many of them go through. I can tell you that, as sometimes happens in the law, there are situations and statutes that I have not worked with in the past and that I am not familiar with. I am not familiar with this provision, but like any other legal issue that I come across in my legal practice, I will definitely look at it, research it, and if faced with one of these issues as far as with this U visa, I will be familiar with it ahead of time. And so to be able to answer in an intelligent manner of a statute that I'm not familiar with, I just simply can't do it this time.
Understandable. Kate?
So it's my understanding that U visas apply only to federal crimes and not state crimes, so it would be a virtual impossibility for us for an office, to have a U visa, which is, it's sort of like a hybrid asylum for those that are helping, within human trafficking. It's big, it's used a lot in human trafficking, as well as drug trafficking, but it's something that is actually only a tactic that can be used on a federal level.
Understandable.
That's about all I know about it.
All right, that's easy enough. Thank you both so much for that kind of difficult question. We had audience questions. We had a couple more. Go ahead. Thank you, Elizabeth.
Kate has pledged not to practice law while she serves in this office. Max, in all due respect, you said your intention was not to do it, or to, I guess, close your practice. Are you prepared tonight to pledge that you will not practice privately while serving as county attorney?
As I stated earlier, I've stopped taking new cases. And so my cases will be wrapping up, and I've only taken cases in the last few months that I knew would be wrapped up before the end of the year. However, I may have one or two cases that may carry on, and it's ultimately the client's decision on whether or not I continue on in that representation or not. But it is not my intention to take new cases and have a private firm. That's not what I'm interested in doing. I ran to be county attorney because I want to be county attorney, and that's the job that I'm going to do. If I wanted to be a private practitioner, I would have stayed a private practitioner and never run for this office. So, like I said, it's not my intention to run a private practice firm, and so that's something that I will not be doing. Like I said, if I've got one or two cases that need to be wrapped up, I don't think it's fair to the people that I've taken representation just to drop them in the middle of the case. But most of the cases that I've got now are getting close to closing out anyway. So,
Okay, thank you very much. And we had one more question.
Yeah, thanks. I'm with the Neighborhood Association, and my question is, and Max mentioned this, you're going to have a staff, right? Each of you, if elected, you will have a staff of attorneys and admin folks. What is your managerial experience, both of you?
We'll start with Kate this time.
Thank you for asking. I briefly mentioned at the beginning of my introduction that I was the section chief for crimes against children prosecution in Kenton County. As part of that, I did have 3 attorneys and 1 staff member that I did supervise that prosecuted the lower level felonies. In my time in state government, I was the deputy general counsel for the labor cabinet, and as part of that was the supervision of all attorneys, merit and non-merit attorneys, within the labor cabinet. My job was supervision of the HR operations, and just the general day-to-day supervision of these attorneys, how they're practicing and what they're doing. And that encompassed, give or take, over 50 to 60 employees, or attorneys at a time, which 50 to 60 attorneys to supervise is a task in and of itself. So those are the large parts of my supervision, the supervision and the supervisory roles that I have held. I think that's going to serve me well as well. Part of the other job when I was at the labor cabinet was to advise the cabinet secretary, and as part of that, I think that'll serve me well as advising the fiscal court.
Thank you, Kate. And Max?
I've run a small business in this town for the last 12 years. That has encompassed hiring and firing employees, unfortunately. That has encompassed meeting a payroll. That has encompassed making sure the proper taxes were paid, to make sure that the monthly expenses were paid for that business. So I've been managing employees for the last 12 years. I enjoy working with other people and enjoy the interaction. And so, as far as experience, that's the experience I have as far as running my own business and doing those sorts of things on a day in and day out basis for the last 12 years.
Thank you so much. Anybody else in the audience? I do have a question. Oh, we've got a couple more. Go ahead. Thank you.
Okay, I'll give you a softball question. Kate mentioned community. So part of your role is to advise the fiscal court. And you'll have an opportunity to be involved in a lot of different important issues that are not crime related, right? So how do you see that role? What do you want to achieve in that part of your job?
Kate. We're on. We'll go with Max.
And I guess the softball question is kind of like the old attorney's line of, I've got one more question. As far as things that I would like to see for this community, when you talk about the county attorney's role as far as advising the fiscal court, it's not advising the fiscal court on how to vote on certain issues. It's the legality of certain issues and things that they either can or cannot do, or things that could potentially wind up in litigation, or actions that could potentially be taken that could have a bad result legally for the county. So as far as setting of what the park project that everybody has been talking about, and if that's one of the main goals, that's not really the role of the county attorney. That's the role of the magistrates, or that's the role of the city commission, and to be actively involved in that process as far as I think you all should do this, that's simply not my job. And so that's not an active role that I would take. Born and raised in Franklin County, I would love to see the parks improved. I remember playing in the parks as a kid. I would love to see that improved. I would love to see the economic climate of Franklin County improve. As one of the reasons that I ran for county attorney is because of my children, and I want my children to come back and live in this community, be able to prosper in this community, and have jobs in this community, and do those sorts of things. And so I would love to. I got the axe on your question.
Thank you. And Kate?
So I do agree with Max in the sense that I believe the job of the county attorney is not to say, oh, this is what I want to do, or this is how I want to do it. I think you do it with what you have, you do what you can with what you have where you are. And as being advice to the fiscal court, what I would like to see with the fiscal court is smoother meetings. It has become evident to me in the past, and sometimes that county attorney has not spoken to members of the fiscal court prior to the meeting. There should not be questions of law or legal issues unless it's something that comes up out of conversation naturally in the meeting. Those should be answered beforehand, and my goal would be to meet with each one of the magistrates, answer those questions beforehand, go ahead and speak with them on those issues so we can have a more constructive, productive fiscal court meeting.
Thank you very much. Okay, we'll go to my question. So we all know that in order for changes to occur, you have to make changes. You have to kind of clear out some of the old. Do either of you know exactly how long the current assistant county attorney has had that role, has been in that position?
I do.
But go ahead. Yeah.
Go ahead. I mean, there's currently 2 assistant county attorneys.
2, okay.
Okay. Well, actually 3. I take that back. 3.
Okay.
Rex Hunt, Chris Broadus, and Maura Wingate. Chris Broadus has been there. I think he is already at his retirement age, and he has been faithfully serving this community for a long time. Maura Wingate, I believe, is in her approximate, I think, 3rd year, maybe 4th year of practicing law here. And Rex Hunt has been here for a number of years as well. I think it's Mr. Hunt's intention at the end of this year to leave. One of the things that I would like to see when elected county attorney is to be able to hire some new associate county attorneys and to bring diversity into the county attorney's office. Currently, there's 1 female county attorney, no other type of minorities or things like that. So one of the things that I would like to see is to bring in a more diverse group to be able to meet the needs of the citizens of Franklin County.
Thank you. Kate?
Well, I think yes, again, there are those 3 folks that have been there.
Yes, sorry, you don't have to give the years, I guess. Just how do you feel? How do you feel about, or do you feel that any changes need to be made?
As far as staffing's concerned?
Correct.
Okay, that's a great question. I don't think that that's something that I'd have I think it'd be unfair for me to speak on that matter. I do know each of these individuals. I don't know Mr. Hunt that well, but I do know Ms. Wingate and I do know Mr. Broadus. I don't think that's something that's fair for me to speak on at this point in time because I haven't been in the office. I haven't had the opportunity to work with them. As somebody that, again, managed 50 to 60 attorneys and did have to do the hiring and unfortunately the firing and other human resource matters, that was something that had to be done. But again, if we're expecting if we're expecting change, it doesn't necessarily have to come in the form of staffing. Staffing changes can come in the form of prosecutorial philosophy and those types of things. So I just don't think that's something that I'd be willing to answer at this time because I think very highly of both of them.
Okay, thank you very much. If we don't have any other questions, we will move on to our closing statements. Anybody in the audience have anything else for our county attorney candidates? No? Okay, well this time we will start our closing statements with Max.
Okay. As I stated earlier, my name is Max Comley. I've been practicing law here for 17 years. I am the only candidate for Franklin County Attorney that has any experience in the Franklin District Court or the Franklin County Family Court in which the county attorney primarily practices in. I've been asked along this campaign trail the reasons why I'm running for office. I've got 3 children that all reside here. Well, they all reside here in Franklin County. I've got a 20-year-old and I got 13-year-old twins. I want to make this community better and safer for them for when they graduate college or trade school or what have you, that they want to come back to Franklin County and start their family just like I did 17 years ago. And so that's my hope. Those are the things that I want to put in place. I think a drug court and a mental health court are ways to make Franklin County more safe. I want to stop the revolving door at the jail. And I think those are 2 main things that we can focus on that will be tangible, that everybody can see. Either I've got them done or I haven't got them done when I come up for election the next time. And so these are all tangible things that you can see. These are things that I want to see done. I want to make this community better. And as an attorney and a practitioner, I think those are, a role as a county attorney is something that I can do to help out my hometown that I've loved for so long.
Thank you so much. Kate?
Thank you. And thank you again, Natalie, Foresee. Thank you very much for this opportunity to come here tonight. Our greatest resource in this county is not Buffalo Trace. It's not economic development. It's our children. And it's incumbent upon us. We all do. I think everyone agrees it starts at home. But if they aren't given the support at home, who are we as a community unless we go and we support these children? When you do that, you provide these children with mentorships. You provide them with these opportunities. You provide them with somewhere to go inside the community, accountability. And at the same time, this isn't a Band-Aid fix. This isn't a quick fix for anything. This is tangibly going to reduce crime in the long run. Franklin County is frankly, we're at a tipping point right now. We can thrive or we can fail. And it takes leaders with experience to be able to do that. Folks, I'm the only person that has ever done the job that we are both sitting here running for today. And it's what I've done my entire career. I have dedicated my life and my career to doing this. And when we start first and we protect these children first, and I'm the only person that has started drug courts from the ground up. Those are things that we can do. I've done it in other communities. It's time for me to do it here at home. And it's time for us to do it here so that our children can have a better community. So thank you again, and I humbly ask for your support.
Thank you so much. Thank you all. Let's give our candidates a welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hope everybody's doing well. I want to thank FORR for putting this on tonight. I also want to thank everybody that's in attendance and South Frankfort Neighborhood Association. My name is Michael Mueller. I'm currently the 3rd District Magistrate here in Franklin County. My wife Andrea and I own Inside Out Design, which is a landscape design build firm here in Frankfort. I've lived in Frankfort over, I guess, 28 years now, and I really just love this community. And about 10 years ago, I decided I wanted to get involved. So I started with the Chamber of Commerce. I went ahead and did Leadership Frankfort, then Leadership Central Kentucky to kind of learn the inner workings of our community and what works well and what doesn't. Then I realized that people out there needed some help, so I volunteer as much as I can, at the Sculpture Park, the Women's Shelter, American Red Cross, and it's just been humbling, to really see all the people in this community that care about it and love it so much. So, it wasn't until I ran for my first term, really, that I realized that racism is still prevalent in our community. Most people are unaware of this, It's interesting, the more I research racism and things like that, at a young age, we're taught white is good and positive, black is bad and negative. So for me, that's super eye-opening. Statistics show currently that 2 individuals that graduate from college, one brown or black and the other one white, 25% difference in money, for income that they produce. So, I think we have a lot of improvements. I do love this community, though. When people ask why I'm running for judge executive, like probably most people that are running, it's for our children, Jewel and Vance. I want to help create a community that they'll be proud of, that we can have good paying jobs, safe living environment, a diverse community, and be happy. So, thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, and Ken.
Want to stand up? My name's Ken Carroll. I've lived here since 1972. I have 2 children. They're my children. I call them children. They're 34 and 37, 2 sons, 3 grandkids, 6, 7, and 8. And I'm glad to hear all the candidates say that we're here doing this for our children. I'm sincere. I'm sure Michael's sincere. Everybody's sincere about that. And it's extremely important because we are losing our youth every year. They go get a college education, could be at K-State, could be UK or another, location in the state. Mine was Western Kentucky University. Of course, I graduated from here in 1973. You can do the math and figure that out. How old I am, 67. I'll just tell you right now. I have a long career in economic development, 30-plus years as a practitioner in the public and private sectors. I've worked for the state legislature to help design and research the current Economic Development Partnership Act that we've been working under for 30 years. Very proud to say that. Worked with a lot of different smart people there as well as everywhere else that I've worked. Whether it be the Cabinet for Economic Development, after that to be able to help implement the act, the UK College of Engineering, working in the manufacturing, the Center for Manufacturing there, Kentucky Association of Manufacturers here in town on the west side, as a private consultant in education and training in economic development, as well as now President and CEO of Advanced Manufacturing Professionals. Just very quickly, our mission in life is to help enhance the image of the manufacturing industry and those that may have careers in it. There are many lucrative careers there with great benefits, and I want to work with you to bring those people here to Frankfort.
That was your timer.
All right.
That was it. Thank you so much, Ken. All right, guys, let's get to the first question. We will start with, actually, Ken this time, since Michael started with the introduction. First question. The city and county have a number of interlocal agreements and memoranda of agreements that promote effective partnership. However, in the end, these are just workarounds for more efficient government within the county at large. What is your view on the proposal to merge city and county governments?
Okay, thank you. I'm against merger at this time. I think in concept it does make some sense, but as a realistic opportunity, I do not support it. It would, in my opinion, increase the taxes on those that live in the county outside the city limits, and potentially even reduce the benefits, the services, affect the services at least. My thought is that we have to have a pro-growth community. I was alluding to that in my introduction. We need a pro-growth community, not an anti-growth community. And right now, my opponent and some others on the fiscal court, as well as some on the city commission, are anti-growth. There's no question about it. And so we have to have a pro-growth community, and with that, at some point in the future, I think it might make sense to revisit that, but we must have a growing and flourishing community before we would ever entertain that question.
Thank you so much, Ken. We will move on to Michael. I'll repeat it. The city and county have a number of interlocal agreements and memoranda of agreements that promote effective partnership. However, in the end, these are just workarounds for more efficient government within the county at large. What is your view on the proposal to merge city and county governments?
Thank you. You know, I think everybody realizes it's been on the ballot twice. You know, it's not up to the city commission, fiscal court, it's up to the citizens of Franklin County. I think personally, it runs well the way it is. I do think there is a lot of room to be more efficient. I've been asking for meetings, quarterly meetings with the city and county together so we can know what the left hand and the right hand's doing. You know, I plan on doing that when I become judge executive. You know, and another angle is I think that the mayor and the judge executive should be meeting, you know, at least every 2 weeks to figure out what's going on. So I think it's working well the way it is, but it could definitely be more efficient and a better way to spend people's tax dollars, and I think we'll be ahead at the end. Thank you.
Okay, thank you guys so much. Next question. How will you work with KSU moving forward? And Michael, we'll start with you.
Okay, thank you. You know, KSU's always been a big topic. I really got involved with the Chamber of Commerce, and I really kind of was eye-opening as far as how KSU functions and how our community functions. I feel like we've really tried to open our hand and invite the students downtown and things like that, town gown, things like that. We're having a hard time. You know, I think currently there's some talks going that there's a potential that we could be using their pool and Exum Center that I think would be huge. Another idea I have, and actually we're in the school here that I really like what they do, is every senior in the independent school system has to do an internship. And I think that would be very good to do with K-State, to ask all their kids, at least, in maybe their senior year, that they would have to come out in the community and do a mentorship within companies that they're interested in pursuing for a career. And I personally think that would be a great way to pull the two together. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Ken, same question. How will you work with KSU moving forward?
All right. Well, I'd like to go ahead and announce that we've already begun that effort with my campaign. My campaign manager, Craig Blanton, and I have been meeting with KSU to talk about this. It's been many, many years that obviously we've had the university here, and nothing has really ever come to fruition, at least in my lifetime that I can remember. So we're focusing on making sure that we can bring in the best talent in helping KSU, whether it be academic talent as well as athletic talent. Hopefully those working together as one have great athletes with great grades. When we bring in those growth industries, manufacturing, healthcare, logistics, energy, and IT, those would be the co-op opportunities. And I'm committed today that we would not ask any student at K-State or anywhere else, but particularly here at K-State, to take on a co-op and not be paid. I think by doing that, it creates a relationship between them and the company, and ultimately, once they graduate, we want them to stay here in the community.
Thank you so much. All right, moving on to our final question that we've put together for you. When you look around Franklin County, you see a lot of empty commercial and industrial buildings. What is your plan to retain current businesses while attracting new business? Sorry.
Me? That's okay. I think it is too. We're all going to answer,
Flip a
right?
coin, that's right, yeah.
Well, here's my thought, and again, it comes from experience and knowledge of working in the economic development industry, private and public sector. We need more careers in high growth industries, which I just referred to, that pay lucrative compensation, great benefits, and in many ways have that co-op opportunity with K-State and hopefully others that come out of the local school systems. We're going to pull together those opportunities for the schools to work together and pipeline talent to be able to have employees and team members who have that lucrative pay and have the opportunity to use that income to be able to shop, go to the restaurants here and do other things. Now, by doing that, you'll be able to fill the storefronts. Not going to happen automatically, but you can begin that effort by having people with better incomes who live here and can support the businesses in a way that provides enough talent for them to start a business and grow the business.
Thank you so much, Ken. And Michael, same question. When you look around Franklin County, you see a lot of empty commercial and industrial buildings. What is your plan to retain current businesses while attracting new businesses?
Okay, thank you. So I guess I'll go with to retain current. I'm very much of the mind, being a business owner myself, if your employees are happy, everything's good. And I think we need to do the same with our existing business owners. We need to go to them individually and say, how are you liking things here in Frankfort, Franklin County? Can we do something to help your business? What can we do? I know so many businesses aren't talked to at all in our community. They've been here 20 years and they don't know anybody. And I think that's a problem. They're not happy per se. As far as empty buildings, let's just go downtown. I think we need to, any community is only going to succeed if we have a thriving downtown, bottom line. So for me, we need to identify what's missing downtown and really go after those companies that are needed. Lexington did it very well. I think everybody in this room can agree, we need a grocery store downtown. It's not fair to the people living here. So we need to identify what is missing in our community and really just go out, identify the companies that need to be here, talk to them, if they need incentives, whatever, but we need to get our stores filled downtown first.
Thank you, Michael. And I actually do have a follow-up to that question, and we'll start with Michael and then end with Ken. Would you specifically attract minority-owned businesses, and if so, how?
It's a great question. I absolutely would. I help a lot of minorities every day, through our business and stuff. Finding them is the hard thing, as far as I'm all about entrepreneurship and things like that. So, usually I'll sit up here once a year and talk to the kids and how we can help them. You know, education, you don't always have to go to college. You can go to a trade school and things like that, or you can just go straight into being a business owner. So, you know, attracting minority businesses is a little probably trickier than just your average one, but for me, it's getting out there and beating the pavement and trying to, you know, find them, you know, find out who wants to be here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Ken, would you specifically attract minority-owned businesses, and if so, how?
The short answer is yes, and the how is directly tied into what I was referring to a while ago, and that's part of the discussion that we've had with representatives of Kentucky State University. For those athletes, for example, that you know, do not get to go to the next level for whatever reason. Some will, some won't. We've had a lot that have and are very successful. But for those that have not or are not able to go to the next level and want to stay here, and hopefully we can provide the housing opportunities and employment opportunities for them to be here, we've already started having those discussions with K-State to develop a community with an entrepreneurial spirit, which would include all of us. Regardless of what type of business organization you're in, we need to think that way. And so with that, we're specifically have proposed to K-State, and we're having follow-up discussions on that, to be able to tie them directly into co-ops with those growth companies or entrepreneurial activities to be able to come and grow and stay here and raise their kids.
Thank you so much. All right, now we are going to open it up to some audience participation. Do we have any questions from the audience at this time for our candidates? Yes, we've got one over here, right here, wearing the blazer behind my dad.
I'd like to hear a little bit more about the statement of not being anti-growth in Franklin County, and from both of you, what that actually means to you and what you would do about it as far as being pro-growth in our county as a whole.
We'll start with Ken.
Okay. Well, I think when I've boiled it all down, that it's in the area related to planning and zoning is where the core of the problem is of us being viewed as business unfriendly. Now, with that, I think we have great staffs in both the county and the city sides, very astute and learned as what they need to do. They have policies, and of course with any policy there's always room for improvement, but I think for the most part they're solid. Of course the problem or challenge for most people is that they're very comprehensive and hard to understand. So one of the first things that we'll do when we get there, we're committed to mapping out all the processes of county government to be able to make sure we can communicate, here's what you got to do to be able to do the things you want to grow yourself, your business, and this community. But I think the real core of the problem with planning and zoning is not the policies, it's not the staff, it's actually the planning and zoning committee itself. In many cases is not prepared to do that job, and the end result is we have people that won't build here, people that are leaving here, people that don't even want to come here and do business because of that.
That's your name. Thank you so much. Michael?
Trying to remember the exact question now. Janet, do you remember what it was exactly?
Probably not worth
Promoting
it,
growth.
but I'm interested in learning more about, Mr. Carroll said that he felt like the fiscal court and the city commission was anti-growth for Franklin County, Frankfort County. To expand more on that and what he's planning to do about that.
Okay. Yeah, he likes to say that I'm anti-growth, but I'm not. I just want to grow smartly in a wise way. You know, I think we need to protect our farmlands. I think that's very important. But I do think we need to grow. You know, we've approved a fiscal court last year, probably 2 or 3 TIF projects with the city. So I think that proves that we're ready to move forward. We need to better our processes. I think right now there's a lot of red tape. You know, there's a lot of things that when you go, even if you're a homeowner or a developer, you go to P&Z and you say, what do I need? And they give you something, but then it seems like it always changes. You know, we need better, easier, simpler rules for everybody to follow from the get-go. So I'm all for growing. We're going to have to grow if we're going to do things like, you know, the park plans and things like that. You know, in order to do those things successfully, we're going to have to grow. We just need to grow in a smart and responsible way and just not turn everything loose. So, thank you.
All right, thank you for that question. Next.
Kind of piggybacking off of the growing and community and you guys being in the county, would you guys, the city has a human rights commission. Is that better? Yeah. Okay. Well, the city has a human rights commission. What thereof is a human rights commission. Would the county be willing to adopt a human rights commission for diversity, equity, and inclusion purposes? Because say, for instance, something happens to somebody out in the county, the human rights commission within Frankfort on the city level cannot, you know, even entertain it. So would the county be interested in adopting a human rights commission? And if you are interested in it, how would you raise that commission up?
Michael.
Thank you. Yeah, I can't speak for the whole fiscal court, you know, because I'm just one of 7. But yes, I'm absolutely for, you know, doing that same ordinance. You know, I think it's important that we do things together also. You know, I did some research and I think there's only been a couple complaints, you know, 9 maybe, that the city has gotten over the last, since they did the ordinance. And most of them have just worked out. But I'm all for it. I think everybody should be treated equal, no matter who they are. So yes, I'm definitely for that.
Okay, thank you so much. Ken?
Yeah, I've got to answer that.
Yes.
Well, they were asking another question.
Sorry.
Out here. No, that's okay. So the bottom line is, for us to be successful in this community, we have to learn to collaborate together, not just talk at each other or pass each other and say a few things. I mean, actually work together, collaborate together, whatever the issue is or the matter is. Human rights is very important. So yes, I think that they should be working together on that as well. I don't know the specific verbiage, or I guess it's an ordinance, city ordinance, the messaging of the verbiage of the city ordinance, but in concept, yes, absolutely do support that.
Okay. Question, next question.
Look at all kinds of questions.
That's good.
Well, we're all here. So.
That's good. I'm glad. Great.
You know, I was downtown for the Bourbon on the Banks. It was a great event. Was it parked at the old YMCA? So for those of us that can't keep up with the situation with the, maybe there's going to be a development down there issue, could you give us an update and maybe like how would you get some progress made on this?
Ken.
Yeah, that would be first.
Okay. Yes, thank you. Well, I think here's my vision, and I've shared this with many, and we'll see what you think. And I've seen this happen in the past. If you have a good collaborative community, city, county, school systems, the public at large, all in companies working together, you have a business-friendly environment. The business community is growing and prosperous. You have companies, and I'll just say such as Buffalo Trace, that are capable of funding some major types of activities in the community. So for example, I would like to see, now we've got a potential multi-use facility at Lakeview Park. I'd like to see a convention center downtown. And I think to be able to afford and to do those types of things, whether it be that convention center or things out at Lakeview Park or other activities in the community, we have to get the business community involved. It's my understanding that we've never made a big ask of Buffalo Trace, and we need to. So that's just an example of what I would do, reach out to the business community, but we have to have a better relationship.
Thank you so much, Ken. All right, our next audience question.
I don't get an answer. Christy,
You know what? These lights are hot.
I mean, first you spelled my name wrong, and now you're knocking me out of
But I
question.
said it right. Mueller. I promise I'd never say it wrong again. I apologize for the misspelling. Michael, it's your turn. Please.
I can't remember what the question is now.
Well,
Christy.
darn it. David.
I'm just kidding. I think I can do it. You want to know where we are at parcels B and C, right?
Yes.
Basically. So I'll tell you what I know.
Most people think the YMCA, where's it
Yeah, so I'll just tell you what I know, and I hope it's accurate. So, you know, a developer owns it right now. State sold it to a developer. He has it. Somewhere along the line, you know, we got a transit center worked into the thing. We finally got the grant. They're literally supposed to start breaking ground on that transit center probably within the next month or two. That's what's holding everything up. Once the transit center goes in, he's agreed to go ahead and put Washington Street in. The old Y is going to come down because I think they're going to use that for staging. And as far as I know, he's going to go ahead and build the whole thing out as far as the stores, the condos, thank you, apartments. But I also know, not including with him, is there some talk about another hotel coming downtown. So that's kind of in the early stages. I think it's been a little frustrating for everybody, you know. So that's it's not a county thing, but I can just tell you what I know of. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you,
And I'm sorry.
It's all good.
All right, next question.
So if elected, what would be the strategy to recruit other businesses to come to Frankfort?
Okay.
We'll start with Michael
Yep.
this time.
Thank you for the question. You know, I think that's an important question. I kind of touched on it earlier with the downtown. You know, I think we need to identify for the downtown as far as what's missing and who we need to go after. You know, we have a great economic development, you know, team that's together. So I think we need to let them do their job. I think we need to, again, you know, talk to the current businesses and because, for instance, I talked to one of my neighbors who runs a huge factory here. He's not real happy. He said, you know, I've had multiple opportunities to bring other factories from Europe, but I'm not super happy here. So I told them to go to another state. I mean, it's a prime example that, you know, if people aren't happy that are here, we're not going to attract anybody. But I do think, you know, getting out, but making the processes simpler, you know. So when they come here, I feel currently like we just kind of like, oh, hey, you know, what can we do for you? You know, I think we need to be better leadership and go after them, you know, wine and dine them, what can we do? And we need to make them feel welcome, you know. I've always said since my time on the chamber is we don't have enough cheerleaders, you know. I feel like Frankfort is a phenomenal place to live and raise your families, but everyone's like, oh, it's Frankfort, it's a state town, we're never going to be anything else. You know, that's not true.
That's your time.
Oh, waving the flag.
Oh, I didn't know there was a flag. Where?
Yeah, no.
Oh, come on, Brad, you gotta get a bigger
We've
flag
made
than
up
that.
a
I can barely see.
And you can continue that in your closing.
No, that's fine, that's fine.
Thank you both so much for those responses.
He has to answer.
Did he?
Christy, okay?
Thank you for asking.
I just thought I'd ask.
I passed out. Go ahead, kid.
Okay, I alluded to this a while ago, but this is the way I see it, and I think many others do. Without disposable income of individuals in growth industries with good careers that have lucrative pay and good benefits, you're not going to be able to fill any of the empty storefronts respectfully in this community, whether it be downtown or away from the downtown. My thought is, since the city basically is without development property unless they tear down a facility or two to build something newer, they don't have any industrial general property other than, I guess, 5-10 acres here or there. I have already started an effort to identify 500 to 700 acres of industrial general land in this community in the southwestern and western part of the county. With that, we can bring in those good careers, work with the city, have a coordinating effort with Kentucky State University to tie into that talent and build this community.
All right. Thank you both so much. Go ahead.
You think that property rights and zoning laws should be overridden to promote business growth?
Ken?
Interesting question.
Well, no. Now, we still do have a capitalist system. So, for example, going out to, as I just mentioned, to try to identify, 400, 500, 700 acres of property in the western part of the county would have to be with willing sellers. You can't go in and just, demand that people sell their property or condemn it for growth. That's against the law. Now, the state government can do that from time to time. Say you're going to build a new road or new highway or something, and the people have been given, a legitimate offer and they don't want to sell. Typically, there is a way to work that out, but if not, they may have to end up proclaiming eminent domain to do that. County doesn't have that, but even in principle, I'm not for that. You don't have to do that, and I certainly wouldn't do that.
All right, Michael?
Yeah, I would say that somebody's rights are somebody's rights, at the end of the day. But I do think the comprehensive plan and hopefully the housing study that we have out now is going to help a lot of things as far as create a roadmap for the future as far as what we can and cannot do. But I think someone's rights are somebody's rights, and the government has no bearing to, overrule that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. We're going to take one more question, if you don't mind, because believe it or not, we've caught up. But for the rest of the questions, we will go ahead and take them, put them on our website, and allow them a chance to answer so that you can read that on our sites, okay? So our final question this evening, I'm sorry, Patricia. She holds the mic. She's going to be nice and
I'll let her go.
and pass it.
Well, they still have to go after us, right?
Correct.
Just throwing it out there.
Thank you. Franklin County and Frankfort have an available and affordable and safe housing crisis. I think most of us, have been thinking about that over the last couple of years. What are your individual thoughts and ways that that you could be a leader in doing some specific things to abate that or to mitigate it, such as advocating for UALTA, the Universal Uniform, Residential Landlord and Tenant Act agreement, or another would be more progressive housing fairness ordinance that includes non-discrimination against folks determined by their income. And the other would be the influx of Airbnbs and their effect upon affordable rentals in Frankfort, and adopting what other cities have moved towards to look at how to reasonably do that. Thank you.
Over to Michael.
Yeah. Thank you for that question. Affordable housing seems like it's right here. I know last year or the year before there was an apartment complex downtown that, that caused a lot of problems. I am in agreeance with a lot of the things that you just talked about as far as the Fairness Act and things like that. I think we need to really make sure our policies and ordinances encourage diversity and prevent displacement. I think that's what we're seeing right now. I kind of looked up affordable housing, and the statistic is, it shouldn't be more than 30% of somebody's annual gross pay for electric and everything. So we really need to, I kind of have this idea about creating a trust. I think if we can come up with a way that everybody buys in as far as developers, builders, the government, things like that, obviously we need to start building more. We just need to build smart. But I think I've been on both sides of it, because I've been a landlord, and so I've had places that were not taken care of well, let me just say. So I think there needs to be a committee put together that we sit around and we figure out what's good for everybody to help promote, affordable housing.
Thank you so much. And Ken?
I don't think you have to develop a trust to accomplish that. My solution would be a more based in a private sector approach. Again, you think about it, if we have 500 to 700 acres of industrial general property, you're talking about thousands of people that need to be there to work. Now, we have a lot of people that don't want to work, but I want to help people find the good part about work, how they feel, how they can help their families, how they can help themselves. And quite frankly, if they have a good career with benefits, they can afford better housing. Quite frankly, discrimination in any form is illegal. So, obviously we will do what we can to combat that, but you've got the state level and the federal level in particular that will take that on. My thought is, let's have more people with disposable income and good careers thousands of them that we can recruit at all levels, whether they be, you know, the line level, the supervisory, skilled trades, the managers, whomever, and be able to also tie to that, which some communities around us have done, Shelby County and Scott County. And let me say, I'm not looking for mega growth there, but they do have a good idea.
Thank you.
Let's start tying housing to the packages that people get to go to work in these lucrative careers. That's what I would do.
All right, thank you so much. Now, this is a quick yes or no, and then I'm gonna let you all do your closing. Do either of you hold season tickets to any of Kentucky State University's athletic teams? And if not, will you commit to purchasing them tonight?
That's to me. I do not have those tickets, but again, we've already started working with and talking with folks in athletics and other areas of Kentucky State. We are going to have a much closer working relationship to be able to move forward and Kentucky State realize its full potential.
So that's a no,
yes.
but is there a commitment to buy them?
Right. Sure, yes.
Okay, I'm gonna hold you to it. Michael?
I'm all behind it. You know, I went to the first game, and now, you know, Craig Foley from here is coach and assistant coach. My kids love him, and yeah, I'm all in.
Okay,
Yeah.
Perfect. I'm gonna follow up with you guys.
Absolutely.
All right, you both have 1 minute to close. Thank you so much this evening. We started with Michael for the intro, we'll end with Ken for the closing.
Well,
They can't see your face when you stand up on the mic.
I gotta stand up, stretch my legs, I'm sorry.
Okay, go ahead.
And they're not missing anything by not seeing my face. I'll just go ahead and put that out there. Thank you all so much for being here tonight. Thanks to FORR, thanks to the South Frankfort Homeowners Association, Neighborhood Association. Thank you all so much. These are very important activities to be able to see and hear what potential leaders you have to select from. My background in economic development, 30 plus years in working with you with a collaborative spirit, which is my personal brand, is about collaboration. That we can move this community forward. We can keep more of our youth here. And I ask for your vote now and before November 8th, because we got some other advantages prior to November 8th. I ask for your vote so we can move forward and have a prosperous community. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Michael?
Thank you. Before I forget, Ms. Rye, yes, I'm all for the B&B ordinances because I think we need to control how many are in our community. But for my closing, you know, being a business leader has taught me a lot. It's taught me really leaders make the difference. And, you know, the only way we're going to change our attitude towards racism is strong leadership. You know, at the end of the day, we must lead by example. We must hire a diverse workforce. And it's just something I believe in. You know, being a business owner and working with pretty much HR with, you know, our employees every day has taught me a lot. Is it going to be easy? Absolutely not. You know, absolutely not. I've never been appointed to a position, and just because you're appointed doesn't make you a professional, you know, and it's not going to be an easy task, but, you know, I just want to really thank FORR. You know, it wasn't until about 5 years ago that we did the first one when I ran for magistrate that I really kind of, it opened my eyes to our community and it made me learn and reach out, and I've met a lot of great people here, and I ask them questions all the time because, you know, I'm white, I don't know. But, you know, the first time I could never have said that because I was scared to death. So I do think these conversations are great. I think we should have them more often with the whole community. So again, I want to thank everybody for South Frankfort Neighborhood Association, Frankfort High for putting us on, the TV cable, and Christy, you and your dad. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you guys so much. All right. Thank you guys for just sticking it out with us. We've got our last category. Get up and stretch a little bit. I'm going to sit down for a minute while we get our city commissioner candidates up on the stage. Okay, everybody. Thank you so much. Since we have our fullest panel, we're going to start from left to right and then come back this way. So we'll start with Patricia. For our endings, we'll start with Lisa. That makes sense, everybody? Wonderful. Okay, Patricia, we're going to give you 2 minutes for your intro and go now.
Well, thank you guys for having me. Thank you so much FORR and for Frankfort High and South Frankfort for having us. Both 3 important areas. Can you hear me back there? Sorry. Okay, she waved and I thought.
There's only one mic on that stage. You might have to put it down a little.
I just saw someone's hand go up and I thought maybe she couldn't hear. I'm sorry.
We can pass the mic if that works.
Okay.
Can you take it off the stand, maybe? No. Yeah, it's easier to.
Okay, how about now? Okay, great. I'm Patricia Waldridge, and I'm grateful to be here today to answer any questions that you may have. I'm available all the time to answer your questions that you may have. But I am serving now as your city commissioner and mayor pro tem in the city of Frankfort. I am finishing up my second term, and I am here today to answer questions and to continue to prioritize Frankfort and continue the leadership that I have that's transparent, focused on economic development and the growth of this town and this city for our children and those to come in the future. So I'm asking for your vote, and I'm excited to be here, and I look forward to everyone else's answers as well.
Thank you so much, Patricia. And Dawn?
Well, since I'm the newbie up here, and y'all probably know everybody else a little better than you know me, I'm going to give you a little more of my background. I'm Dawn Hale. I grew up here in Frankfort. I graduated here from Frankfort High. I sat in this auditorium in study hall and passed notes to what became my future husband. So this auditorium has a lot of good memories for me. I have served on many boards and commissions, the last being the Frankfort Plant Board, where I was the treasurer for 4 years. I have a daughter who and I'm a Kentucky State graduate. I got my undergrad degree there in political science and economics, have my master's in public administration. And so Kentucky State has a lot of good memories for me also. I helped start the South Frankfort Neighborhood Association, so it does me really have a lot of happy feelings to know that the Neighborhood Association is still going. When Mickey Mills was the mayor, he ran on the platform of neighborhood participation in local government. And so I was the Norma Ray of neighborhood associations, helping him start them. And South Frankfort is the only one that really has continued, so that's something that I think you all have really to be proud of. And I lost Brent there for a minute to see if my time was up. I really enjoy being here, and I enjoy public service. I started in community service with the South Frankfort Neighborhood Association and the South Frankfort Flood Wall. It took us 10 years to get the flood wall, but we got it. I work with people, I get things done.
Thank you so much, Dawn. And Kyle?
Thank you, first of all, to FORR, South Frankfort Neighborhood Association, and Frankfort High for allowing this event to occur tonight. My name is Kyle Thompson. I am a 46-year lifelong member of the Frankfort community. I'm a '94 graduate of Franklin County High School. I graduated from the University of Kentucky with a Bachelor of Arts in Racial and Political Tolerance as the emphasis on my political science degree. I graduated from Ohio Northern University in Ada, Ohio in 2001, and I have been practicing law in Frankfort in various roles for the last 21 years. I currently own one of the largest private probation companies and drug testing companies in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. My number one priority with regard to the position of a city commissioner is obviously economic development, but here's why. Of the 5 counties, Anderson, Shelby, Scott, and Woodford counties, along with Franklin County has the lowest job participation rate. That we are the only county that has experienced negative growth rate in the last 2 years. We have the lowest percentage of owner-occupied housing. We have the lowest median value home values. You are 10 times more likely to receive health and social welfare program assistance if you live in the city of Frankfort and Franklin County. The median wage in Kentucky is $7,000 greater than it is in Franklin County. 92% of all cities in the state of Kentucky have a lower crime rate in Frankfort. The only way that we are ever going to get to economic development is to start seeing the forest and not just the trees. Our biggest problem in this town is crime and drug use. We have rampant drug use that many of you may not know of. And it's to the point now that we are we've exceeded the drug overdose rate by tenfold from years past. And I think it's time that we fix those issues first before we start talking about filling buildings.
Thank you so much, Kyle. And Ian?
Thank you very much. My name is Kelly May. Ian.
Kelly.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, that's my first name actually, and I don't have to ask mom and dad why we went with the middle name. So I may turn around if you say Ian.
I like Ian. I like Kelly too.
Yeah, I like Ms. Hale here. Married my high school sweetheart. We've been together for about 20 years now, and 2 weeks ago welcomed a new addition to our family. So I'm now a father of 2 beautiful, incredible, stole my heart daughters, and fortunate enough to have an amazing wife that stands by me through all of the fun things that I choose to get out and do. I'm fortunate enough to be a small business owner with some partners and local partners here at both Bergen-on-Main and Signature Brewery. So those have been 2 passion projects of mine, and seeing come to fruition even before I threw my hat in the ring to get into local government. But that is one of the things that motivated me, is I saw an opportunity. I saw what made this community great for entrepreneurs, seeing where we were headed as far as the outside interest in our community, not just for those in our state, but across the country, across the globe, are coming into our community every year and really, really enjoying themselves. So we have to figure out, for those of us that live here, how we continue to have that same mindset and same viewpoint for the community that we live in. I believe it's here, but I also believe that perception is reality. And so long as we have people in our community that don't perceive it the way that I do, we have a problem that we need to address and a problem that we have to fix. Sometimes through that process, we may find out that we do have actual problems that are backed up by data. And sometimes we find out that they're opinions. But again, if the opinion is that someone in our community is feeling left out, not included, that they feel like we have work to do, continue to do on our IDEA values, which I'm very proud that the City Commission adopted the inclusion, diversity, equity, and access ideas, and I look forward to continuing to work on those.
Thank you so much, Kelly. And Lisa?
My name's Lisa Unger, for those that don't know me. Thanks to FORR for having us tonight, as well as the South Frankfort Neighborhood Association. I think the one thing that we all have in common in this room is that we're passionate about our city, we're passionate about the things we want to see done, and we're actually doing something about it instead of just talking about it. So thanks to each of you. I'm honored to be sitting here today as a current city commissioner. I honestly, it's not something I ever thought I would see myself doing, but I'm here and I'm really enjoying representing the citizens of Frankfort. I think that I bring an honesty and a fresh look at politics in Frankfort. As well as, I think even our current Board of Commissioners, we're willing to do things that potentially previous boards weren't willing to do. For those that don't know me, I was born and raised here, about a half a block down on Shelby. Graduated from Frankfort High, met my sweetheart here in this room, just like Dawn, and we're still together. So after I went to Berea College, I came back and decided I wanted to make a difference in my city. So here I am, raising my kids here, and ready to just keep moving things forward. So thanks for having me.
All right, thank you so much. And we're going to start with you tonight, Dawn, since the mic is down there. First question: we currently have a food desert where affordable groceries are not easily accessible in South Frankfort, and that issue is worsening. If elected, what will you do to address this?
Okay, for someone that grew up down here, went to Pick Pack daily, I know the struggles of not having that option, especially for someone that may not have the transportation to get to Kroger's or somewhere else. So it's definitely something as a current commissioner that has been on the top of the list. We've actually had staff working on this. I think that the potential in downtown for trying to get something in the parcels is there. And I think it's just communicating with the developers and what we need. Also, there's been a little bit of communication on potentially getting some sort of a grocery truck, looking at what other communities have done to get almost like a temporary grocery stop in locations. We just need to learn from other communities and get that done, so.
Thank you so much, Dawn. Kelly, same question? Or, sorry,
That's okay.
Lisa. Oh, it's late. Thank you, Lisa. And we will go to Kelly now. Same question. We currently have a food desert where affordable groceries are not easily accessible in South Frankfort, and that issue is worsening. If elected, what will you do to address this?
So I really appreciate the opportunity to have this conversation. I know that it is at the top of the priority list for those that live downtown in this community and those that may rely on public transportation, which is very difficult to wake up and if you have to get on a bus and you've got a family and children to drive, ride several hours, you spend your entire workday getting groceries. So we have to fix it. We are looking at it. We're having to be creative. The truth of the matter is something that, of course, businesses look at. It's not that nobody has tried to ask Kroger or Whole Foods or all of these grocery stores to come here. They have very specific sets of demographics that they look like on a map. And do we have the traffic flow rates? Do we have the population, the foot traffic that they need to be there? And if the answer is no, they just move on. Whereas we have to go, well, we can't accept just the move on because we have people in our community that are suffering. So continuing to talk about it, continuing to be aggressive and finding out what we can get here is going to be very important.
Thank you so much. Kyle, same question. We currently have a food desert where affordable groceries are not easily accessible in South Frankfort, and that issue is worsening. If elected, what will you do to address this?
Well, I think the first thing we have to realize is that this food desert didn't happen overnight. This is a problem that has been created over a period of 40 or 50 years. We have a gym in almost all of our city and county employees, but one in particular, Penny Peebler, has been working on this project since the very first time I ever met her, as she is a former Frankfort resident. One of the ideas that has been talked about is using some of the open space for a co-op restaurant / retail food sales area, very similar to a farmer's market, yet indoor. They have one in Lexington, actually I think they have two in Lexington, where the menus are always changing based upon the fact that new folks are coming in and trying their ideas for new restaurants, and it's kind of a Kickstarter for them as well. I think that's a fantastic idea. I think we also have to look to the idea of working with the groups that we already have, whether it's Kroger, whether it's any other agency, and being able to utilize their delivery services for the downtown area as well, and figure out a means by doing so.
Thank you so much, Kyle. And now we're to Dawn. Same question. Currently have a food desert where affordable groceries are not easily accessible in South Frankfort, and that issue is worsening. If elected, what will you do to address this?
I loved Pick Pack. To me, if you ever watched the old show Cheers on TV, Pick Pack was like Cheers. Everybody knew your name.
Yeah.
And so you could go there and you saw other South Frankfort friends, and it gave you that good feeling of being able to shop in your community where you knew Danny Bryant and the ladies in the deli. And so Pick Pack is really missed. One of the things that I thought about when I heard that Charlie Boo bought initially the building for Pick Pack was I had hoped that there could be like a co-op for like an indoor farmer's market, and to not only have food but also possibly crafts and some things like that where local people would even have an opportunity to bring their wares to sell there. When I talked with Charlie about that, the problem I think with the Pick Pack building was something with trucks, and so it wasn't possible. But I really think the city definitely should look at trying to get a downtown grocery because it really is needed.
Thank you so much. And finally, Patricia, we currently have a food desert where affordable groceries are not easily accessible in South Frankfort, and that issue is worsening. If elected, what will you do to address this?
Well, I think, what would I do to address this? I think we would continue our research as others have shared here. I will say right now on 2nd Street, there is a little convenience store that's coming up. It won't offer as much. It is small, so that is a start that will help some of this food disparity. However, I think there is something that is needed much larger. As stated, there's been conversations. I've been in on some of those conversations with Aldi's, also the Crossroads IGA that's been in Lexington that's been popping up, looking at some of those the larger companies that are now starting smaller areas to go for that. So I've had those conversations with Penny, I've had those conversations with store owners as well in the surrounding areas, but it really does come down to what they're looking for is demographics on their stats. They have a formula, and if the numbers don't fit that formula to equal where their store will land, they will go other places. So there's also more to looking into this. Yes, we have people that are in need downtown, and when you look at business owners, they want more numbers, they want more income, and things of that nature to bring that in. But it's something I will not give up on, and we will continue to fight till we find the right store.
Thank you all so much. Okay, next question, and we'll start with Patricia. After continued conversations with FORR, we were pleased to see that the city had a job posted for a diversity and inclusion officer in August of this year. Since that time, the posting has been removed and no further discussion has taken place regarding the position. In your opinion, is there a need for such a position? If so, or if not, why?
Thank you for that question. Yes, there is a need for that position. And since it's been posting, I've pushed for this. I've met with people in trying to get this job description done. When it was posted, it was supposed to be a diversity position. Then it was also to be a diversity position with no benefits. And who nowadays wants to accept any jobs with no benefits in today's society? So it also puts it down to very strategic when you put it on a contract and you don't add and take it serious to make it a full-time position. If you're serious about it, you put it as a full-time position. Why was it taken off? Because of the conversation. Within the time that the city asked for it to be put on and for it to be posted, the job opportunities and the job responsibilities has changed drastically, even the title. That title change and those job descriptions that have changed did not come back before the city commission. It was changed without our knowledge, and at the time when I found out that the diversity portion became the lesser of the responsibilities of that, I asked for it to be taken off and for us to move the money elsewhere, because I don't want anything that's halfway done. If you're not going to hire for a diversity person and you're not going to take it serious, don't do it halfway, because we've already got halfway in this community, and it's time we stick with what we want and get a diversity person in here full-time, benefits and all, and get it moving.
Thank you so much. Thank you for that response.
You're very welcome.
And moving on to Dawn, same question. After continued conversations with FORR, we were pleased to see that the city had a job posted for a diversity and inclusion officer in August of this year. Since that time, the posting has been removed and no further discussion has taken place regarding the position. In your opinion, is there a need for such a position? If so, or if not, why?
I think diversity is something that the whole community needs to be involved in. It's not just something that City Hall needs to do. We all need to do it as a community. If we're all involved in trying to be more diverse, in making people of different races, nationalities, etc. welcome, then I think the natural follow to that is they will want to work here, they will want to live here. And so with the budget shortfall that the city is facing, I can understand not hiring new positions right now. I think Kathy Fields in HR does a good job. I think it's something that should be worked on daily. I know with the plant board, I think it's about every other year, they have an EEO study that they do where they look at all of the positions that have come up in that time frame, and oh gosh, my time is up. But it really gives them a good view of what positions, who has applied for them, and why they were or were not hired. So I think that's something also that the city can do.
Thank you so much. Kyle, same question. After continued conversations with FORR, we were pleased to see that the city had a job posted for a diversity and inclusion officer in August of this year. Since that time, the posting has been removed and no further discussion has taken place regarding the position. In your opinion, is there a need for such a position? If so, or if not, why?
My answer to that is yes, it's needed. However, there's also a need for an assistant city manager, an assistant law clerk, an assistant finance director. There is a need for likely an assistant clerk. We need more HR. There is a need for a lot of things. And diversity and inclusion is one of those many needs that we have. And if we weren't facing a $3.5+ million deficit, then absolutely we should make sure that happens. What we cannot do is we cannot sacrifice the ability to provide for the needs of our community by creating jobs that do not benefit everyone right now. And that is the problem that we have right at this very moment. I do think, though, that there is a solution to that, and I think the solution is very easy. I think the Franklin County Public Schools, the city schools, city government, and the county can all work together to fund a position, because we're not just Frankfort people, Franklin County people, we're all Frankfortonians.
Thank you so much. And Kelly?
Thank you.
Do you want me to repeat it?
No.
Okay.
No. It's fine. Unless I get bonus time, but. So in short, yes. Look, when this Board of Commission came on, we started our strategic plan. It had 4 priorities, 21 strategies, 85 actions. One of those action items is to do and hire a diversity and equity inclusion and perform the audit. And I think it's crucial to know where we stand. We're going to say that, we have these issues that we want to fix. Well, are we fixing, just what we're hearing from opinions, or are we fixing what we now actually can see on paper as a way to move forward? And, is it the answer to the bigger conversation of equity and inclusion and diversity? No. If we get the data and we get the information, we do nothing with it, it's just another plan that we've paid for. And so we have to make sure that once we have the information and we finish the audit, that we're intentional in how we move forward. And actually, I remember Mr. Poe saying, be intentional. And you can be intentional by having, show me in your budget where you're being intentional about addressing these issues.
All right, thank you so much. And last but not least, Lisa, same question. Do you need me to repeat it?
No, I think I'm all right.
Okay.
Can you guys hear me? Okay.
I'm so sorry.
Good? No, it's okay. It's just so hard to follow up your beautiful answers. I want them to be. Yeah, I don't really want to repeat what's been said, but I would like to say Commissioner Waldridge summarized that very well. And I appreciate Commissioner May bringing up the strategic plan that includes some of those initiatives that we want to check off for the IDEA values. And honestly, I think when that position was posted as a contract position, it probably should have come through the City Commission first to vote on, because it would have been posted a very different position. And I'd like to just say I'd like to put our money where our mouth is and for it to be full-time, because I think it's needed. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Next question, starting with Lisa. With the current boom of LLCs buying up and rehabbing homes for Airbnbs and expensive rentals, we continue to suffer from an affordable housing crisis in Frankfort and Franklin County. What have you done so far, or what will you do to address this issue?
Thank you. Great question. And it's something I've been talking about a whole lot for this first term. So I know that we could easily look at other cities that have had the short-term rental issues with Airbnbs popping up and taking over some of the housing that we need that could potentially be affordable housing for our community, because that's needed as well. So I think we've hit that time where we need to discuss it. And just talking to the community, I do know there will be legislation coming up in January where Because currently, we have some short-term rentals that aren't even licensed, and they're not paying taxes appropriately, and that's all going to change in January. So I would like to look at that, some of the taxes we were able to collect, and see what we can do with some of those funds to move towards looking at affordable housing. But I could go on and on about this. Please reach out to me. I'd love to chat about it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Kelly, same question.
Thank you. So it's one of the questions and conversations that I have to be honest, as someone who pushes economic development, have dreaded having one of those conversations because I know what needs to happen. And there's a balance between, you want to encourage people to invest in our community to make properties better, and a lot of times we've seen that. We've seen people that have the financial means to come in and buy a piece of property, fix it up a little bit, make it nicer. But what inevitably happens is sometimes, yes, they're looking for short-term rentals, and our community does great with them. Like we talk about our transient and tourism business is booming and going through the roof. So to be a champion of economic development, I've enjoyed watching that happen, but then taking a step back and realizing I'm not an expert on how this affects everyone in the community. It's definitely made me look at it differently. It's definitely something that I've had to open my ears up to a little bit more and understand the impacts that have. And so currently as commissioner, the housing studies that we're working on, obviously excited to see how those come back and how they affect how we move forward with it. So there's got to be a balance, but I'm always going to I want to make sure that the people that live here are taken care of first and foremost.
Thank you so much. Kyle, same question.
Thank you very much. To answer the question directly, what have I done during my time on the commission? I specifically had 3 conversations with the mayor and the city manager to discuss the transient room tax. One of the main reasons is it's not being enforced. Our code enforcement is not being enforced citywide, and if you're doing neither, then you might as well not have anything to do with transient housing to begin with. A couple of times tonight, it's been said that some of us are offering opinions and not data. So here's the data. There are 62 properties that are listed on Airbnb or VRBO right now in Frankfort, Kentucky. The average nightly price is $180. If 80% of those rooms are rented out over 365 days in a year, that's $3.55 million. At 4% of the transient room tax, that's $155,000 that the city of Frankfort is not collecting on your behalf. Those are facts. Those aren't opinions. That's where things need to change.
Okay, thank you so much, Kyle. I'm sorry. Yes, Kyle. Next, we've got Dawn.
Since I haven't been on the commission, I can't say what I have done, but to me, affordable housing is part of the bigger issue of economic development, of code enforcement, and bringing people to this community. I think that after reading the excellent column that was in the paper the other day by Ms. Rye and others, I thought, well, there used to be a certificate of occupancy that property owners had to get before they could rent their property. By having a certificate of occupancy, it assured that the house was safe and sanitary, etc., and in good shape. I wonder if that hasn't sort of gone by the wayside. I haven't had a chance to ask the city, planning and zoning, how many certificates of occupancy they have given in the last year or so. But I think it all works together. If we have economic development and we bring more money into the community, then we can have more housing and hopefully it can be affordable.
All right, thank you so much. And Patricia? Yes, sure. With the current boom of LLCs buying up and rehabbing homes for Airbnbs and expensive rentals, we continue to suffer from an affordable housing crisis in Frankfort and Franklin County. What have you done so far, or what will you do to address this issue?
Thank you for that question. Yes, this is an issue, and I have done several things in my time here and having conversations. One being is pushing abandoned properties consistently and trying to figure out how many abandoned properties and where we can go with abandoned properties, and speaking with our attorney as well as other attorneys on how we can make some of those abandoned properties stay at affordable rates when we turn them over to developers or people that buy those properties. We can use those to be able to move some of that forward. Also looking into public and private partnerships and looking for land here that we can build affordable housing units for those particular people and bring those in, and that's done through a public and private partnership. I've also been looking for land over in the Shingle Lane area to see if that's something feasible for us to be able to look at a public-private partnership to move forward in. Also, right now, our city's going through an RFP process. We're going to put out an RFP probably within the next couple of weeks on a housing visibility study. That will break down what housing we're looking for, whether that's 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, whether that's condos, whether that's affordable housing. It will break down everything for us to know what housing Frankfort needs and where that housing is needed.
All right, thank you so much. And coming up on our last question, starting with Patricia, what is your view on the proposal to merge city and county governments?
Well, I have I guess my pros and cons. I think that it could benefit in ways, but right now you got to have the right leadership in mind when you're moving forward. You can't have leadership that starts off the merge conversation on is the mayor or the judge the leader in this situation. Because at that time, you've lost our community, you've lost our purpose. So in order to move forward, whether you talk about merge or move this county forward, we've got to have people that are coming to run for your office who are passionate about this community and moving it in the right direction. Because merge or no merge, we should be further ahead than where we are in Frankfort. And if we work better together, we can get further. And the goal is that we have different budgets, and the more that we come together and bring our dollars together, we can be more successful. So I think the goal is to move in the right direction, get those that you're electing in, get them on one accord, get them communicating, and really care about the purpose on why they are here and not the title and taking pictures. Enough pictures have been had. We understand they elected us in. We don't need pictures. We need movers, and we need people that are going to come in this community and get it done and work together. We are one community. We are one Franklin County, and we are one Frankfort.
Thank you so much. Dawn, same question?
Yes. I was on the first merger commission. I voted for that. I thought we had a good charter. The second merger commission, I did not vote for because, and I don't remember what specifically was in the charter, that I just didn't think in reality it would work. So I voted against it. I think that we are, as Commissioner Waldridge said, we're one community. We need to work together as one community. So I think that the concept of merger is good, but the reality often falls short. If you live in Peaks Mill or Ball Knob, you probably don't need the same police patrol that you do in South Frankfort or in Cloverdale or other places in town. So I think if we're going to have merger, we need to have different taxing districts. So the people in, for instance, Ball Knob, that would not have the same services as the people in South Frankfort, they then would not have the same taxes. So it might be more possible that way.
Thank you so much. And Kyle, same question.
I'm actually going to say something that I don't think anybody's ever going to hear me say again. I actually think that the taxes should be evenly distributed. I think there should be an equal distribution of who carries the weight. Because when you call 911, you should be able to get the same response whether you live in Bald Knob or whether you live in South Frankfort. However, I will say this: I am not pro-merger. What I am very in favor of is merging departments with the county that are redundant to the point of costing the city millions of dollars. Planning and zoning. We have two different code ordinances. We all live in the same town. You could be one street over, literally. In my backyard, you could be one street over, have different code rules. Solid waste and recycling. With 50,000 people and double the number of houses, you have a lot bigger bargaining power when it comes to your waste management that the county doesn't have to pay a fee for. And your parks departments. We could easily do that. We could save tons of money and also benefit greatly when those parks expand.
Thank you so much. And moving on to Kelly.
So in short, my answer is I am not interested at this time or in favor of a merged government because I don't see us as at a place to where it's an efficient use of our time. Given the state of this community and what we're facing as far as the exciting and positive things we could be working on, in the short 2 years that have flown by here, almost 2 years, very rarely, if at all, I don't think I've ever heard the conversation about, well, we didn't get something done. If we had been in a merged government, that would have worked. You know, so until there's a real conversation where somebody can put the time and effort into presenting the true benefit, dollars and cents on paper, the black and white, how we're going to make that, the logistics of saying that we are now working together, I can't imagine the undertaking that would be for staff and for this community. So if I'm presented with the opportunity to vote for it at this moment, my answer is no.
Thank you so much. And Lisa.
Thank you. Yeah, I would like to say, sort of echo what Commissioner May just said. We have a lot of really exciting projects going on right now. And I think if we were to start discussing a full merger, that would just take away from all of our momentum. But I do see in the future a consolidation of services as well as departments being a good thing for the whole community. Thank you.
Thank you guys so much. Well, that ended the questions that we had prepared for them. Let's take it to the audience at this time. Who in the audience has some questions for our candidates? We've got one right back here.
Talking about affordable housing, parcels B and C are going to have quite a few units, I think, over 700 parking spaces. I haven't read anywhere, or I don't know if y'all are even allowed to force this, but have y'all talked about making a percentage of those units affordable housing? And I don't really know what affordable housing, the dollar amount is. I don't know if it's a percentage of income or just a straight dollar, but do y'all have the ability to require some of those units to be designated as affordable housing?
I'm not going to go in order this time. Whoever feels comfortable answering, please feel free.
I don't know.
Go ahead.
Within those units, what I can say right now is, oh, sorry, I was ready to answer. I'm sorry. There we go.
Extra time.
In regards to those units, I always, right now with parcels B and C, I'm sorry, I'm just going to be honest. I can't really talk on those units because I don't know if those units will be in fruition or not. Let's be honest in where we are in the situation. Second of all would be, yes, if those units do come to fruition, that's why we are doing the RFP for the housing study, the feasibility study right now to see what is actually needed before we start building. As you know, that not only parcel B has about 300 units, but we also have the Parsons Farm that's also bringing in units as well. And so instead of just coming to build units, we're meeting with those developers, we're meeting with people in the community saying, hey, let's do a feasibility study instead of building condos that maybe our community can't afford right now. We need to know if we need more senior living. We need to know if we need 3-bedroom, 2-bath places. We need to know if we need apartments for more college students and things of that nature. So yes, it could be feasible, but I'm not holding my breath right now on parcels B and C.
Okay, thank you for that. Kyle, you had a response?
I wholeheartedly agree with Commissioner Waldridge, Mayor Pro Tem Waldridge. In our second meeting ever in January of 2021, the developer, the individuals who were assisting with the TIF, the economic outreach individuals, they all came to us and they said, we are going to have a $50 million investment in downtown Frankfort. In parcels B and C, there's going to be a $50 million investment. And we all had stars in our eyes, and I said, That's awesome, but it's not true. You're not going to put $50 million in downtown Frankfort. You're not. And they haven't. They haven't in the 4 years that it's sat there. They've blamed it on a parking garage that is a terrible idea that we are now paying for, that we have no legal obligation to pay for. It's going to have 300 spots in it. Is taking up more space that could be used for affordable housing and things of that nature. And I honestly don't believe that parcels B and C will ever happen with regard to the way that it was sold to this community. We have been sold snake oil so many times in this community that until I see it, I will not believe it. But parcels B and C will likely never hold affordable housing in them.
Thank you so much. Go ahead.
Thank you. Just a few kind of quick responses. So, Craig, I think my gut says, can you go back now and renegotiate a contract with somebody and tell them that the private developer what they're going to build? My guess, not legal opinion, is no. I have not personally had that conversation. It's a conversation that can happen, absolutely. As far as the timeline on the project and the transit center, we have meetings coming up next week with the companies that won the bid to build the transit center. A lot of that paperwork was not, so much of a stall on anybody at City Hall, staff, City of Frankfort, anybody there. We had issues getting the paperwork back from the grant from the Atlanta offices. They're taking their time. It's in the middle of COVID. We think it's a big deal, a huge project, because for us it is. But to that office in Atlanta, Georgia, getting everybody else's, they just, we'll get to it when we get to it. So it has been a frustrating, timeline. But to answer one of the questions earlier, there's movement on the transit center, I think.
Thank you so much. Kelly? Did anyone else want to take a stab at it? Go ahead, Dawn.
This doesn't directly address your issue of parcels B and C, but just to talk a little bit more about affordable housing. I worked for the Housing Authority in the Section 8 program, and so being able to have property owners that are willing to take Section 8 clients, I think is important, because if you have low-income people that qualify for the program, but you don't have any property owners in Frankfort that are willing to take the program, then they can't get housing. And so if there are issues that there needs to be greater communication between property owners and the Housing Authority, then I think the City Commission, the mayor is a pro tem person on the Housing Authority Board. So I think there needs to be communication then between the city, property owners, and the Housing Authority to make sure that people that do qualify for low-income housing through Section 8 are able to get the housing that they need.
All right. Thank you so much. All right. Any other questions? We've got one over here. We've got one in the front and one over here.
My question kind of ties a little bit of the question from before and fairness ordinance regarding income levels. So in a lot of bigger cities, they have where if there's new things that come, like in parcels B and C, there are ordinance where they have to, you can't discriminate on income level. That means affordable, you can't ask for people to make 3 times the rent. And you can't say that they can't live there if they have a voucher. Not only our housing authority holds vouchers, but HHCK holds vouchers as well, and I work there. So my question to you all, is that something that you all would put in place so that when these new units, if they come with these parcels, that we can have affordable housing in that way? Would you all support an ordinance around not discriminating based on income levels?
Okay, who wants to take it first? Kyle or Patricia?
Sure.
Kyle, start with Kyle.
Right,
Patricia started last time.
I would say that I have absolutely no problem with an ordinance that requires a owner of property to receive vouchers that come through. However, I can't go so far as to say that we would get to a point where we're talking about things like rent control or not allowing individuals who own the property to make business decisions based upon what happens with those properties. And what I mean by that is we don't enforce the codes that we have now. So if we're not providing people an incentive to make money on their rental properties, they're not going to keep those properties up just because they're nice people. They're just not. And I would think that we would want to add that incentive. Does that mean that helps all affordable housing? No, but I think we can have a happy medium of the two to perhaps get where we want to get there.
Thank you so much. Patricia?
Thank you. Yes, actually, I would take that consideration to see how that works in Frankfort. I've actually been looking into a project in Louisville that's called the 2.0 project in Louisville, and they actually are building units that are about 2,200 units, and 1,300 of those units are going to be set aside for affordable housing, meaning 30 to 80% of the median income. So to me, I think something like that would be feasible, but I also want us to start thinking about when, I believe Craig Bland had asked, what is affordable housing, right? I don't want to keep my community to where they always need affordable housing. Mm-hmm. We also need to think about you and everybody else in this community on how we can bring in jobs to stop calling them jobs. I need you to have a career. I need everybody in this community to have a career and thrive and not live check to check, not have to worry about vouchers. Half the vouchers that come through some of these programs don't even land in Franklin County, but their offices are right here. So what I want to do is try to bring in more jobs, bring in economic development that can get us living past the median so we don't have to worry about just affordable housing for all of them. I want people to start owning homes. I want people to start thriving and being able to own some of these properties and be able to move into places that they feel happy, love, compassion about. That's what I'm looking for.
Thank you so much. All right, we had another audience question. All right.
Well, really, Natalie asked the question. I wanted to push it a little more specific. Some cities have housing fairness ordinances that require any renter, any landlord, to not discriminate based on source of income. And that means Section 8 or vouchers, possibly. We have units here in South Frankfort that will not accept Section 8 and vouchers. It's very difficult for folks who have those to even find housing, even if they're there, the landlord will not accept them. As a city commissioner, would you commit to, I hesitate to say looking at, that's not a commitment, right? Do you think that it would be reasonable that Frankfort City Commission and government adopt a fairness ordinance that does not discriminate against source of income, i.e., Section 8 and other housing vouchers? Because it's a big problem.
Who wants to start at this time?
I'll do it.
Dawn?
As a former employee of the Housing Authority, I feel strongly about that. I know the difficulty that my old clients had in finding suitable housing. And so I wonder, we already have a fairness ordinance that covers discrimination through race, sexual orientation, etc. Why couldn't we just add a paragraph to the existing fairness ordinance to include no discrimination for sources of income for rental property? I wouldn't think it would be that difficult to do, and I definitely would commit to that.
Thank you so much. Anybody else want to respond?
Can I just say I'd like to commit to it as well? Keep it short and sweet.
That's awesome.
I would also say that I would commit to it. However, I think there needs to be some changes and some guarantees from state agencies and others that deal with Section 8 and HUD housing, wherein they require individuals to obtain the contract and then send. There has to be a different process to allow for that, because we can't say, well, we're gonna bank on the fact that you're gonna get this money, but we don't know. And so yes, I think absolutely, but we need to work with the state and federal agencies to be able to, on their bottom line, these people can they know that this money is there. And like Commissioner Waldridge said, you know, a lot of the, well, two of the largest apartment complexes in the city of Frankfort are owned by a company out of Philadelphia. So, I mean, all the money that is coming through those voucher programs and everything, it's not even staying in the city of Frankfort, we're staying in Kentucky. And we need to move, like Commissioner Waldridge says, to a point where yes, we protect those of us who need the protection, the least of these, but we also need to encourage them and build them up and get them to the point where they're owning housing and owning a part of that American dream.
All right, thank you so much. Did anyone else have a comment? Kyle? Nope. Kelly?
Yes, so in short, yes, I would support that. I will tell you my concerns that I think we have to make sure that we talk about through the process so that we don't do it in a way that pushes, again, those potential local investors out that have made a commitment to providing housing. How can they, in the same areas, a lot of times our ordinances and codes are of the strictest and require the biggest investment to fix that property. So we have to make sure that what I don't want to see happen, or what I would be concerned about seeing happen, is investors, property owners coming back and saying, I can't now afford to keep up because I can't charge the rent that I originally was planning to do to cash flow this business and this property. I don't think that means that we don't do it. I think it just means that it's a part of the conversation, and we look at ways that we can get in front of that, and if there's anything that we can do as a city, as an elected body, to participate in that through assistance and funding and helping, whatever that is. I just think it needs to be a part of the conversation. But my answer is yes, and I think it's important that needs to be there. I don't want us to continuously see people trying to be in this community, trying to have generational families in the same neighborhoods growing up, and then next thing you know, they can't even afford their home. We can't have a community that allows that and be proud of any other economic development wins, or if we're going to turn an eye on something that valuable, making sure that someone goes, yeah, this is home, and I can afford to be here, and I want to be here. That's really important.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, go ahead.
Sorry, I wanted to give everyone else.
No,
Sorry,
go ahead.
Thank you. I would also like to say that I support that, but from another angle, I have been through some of the apartment buildings. I've been through some of the places where people are renting, where some people with vouchers have moved out and they have been literally destroyed. So one thing that we have to get over is that ideological, I guess, thought of when you automatically say voucher, or if you say affordable housing or something of that nature, certain landlords are not wanting to accept it because their whole entire apartment is destroyed by someone that had a voucher before. So we've got to understand that everyone that comes with a voucher, everyone that needs that, is not going to tear up an apartment. We've got to be able to make sure there is a better process and who's taking care of the apartments as well. But I can say that I can commit to this, but I think it's also working from both situations. Working as a paralegal here over the past 6 months, I've seen a lot of tenant issues, a lot of landlord and tenant issues. Some of them are absolutely ridiculous. And I hate to say it, but nothing is ever in the favor of the tenant. And I think some things could change, but I think we need to look at both perspectives, and I think we need to do better in supporting both sides. But I think the vouchers should be accepted. It's going to be hard, let's be honest, to actually keep them from not going to the next person and not mentioning that. So it's going to be hard, so enforcement would be a big thing. But I definitely could support putting it to our ordinance as the others have said. So thank you.
Okay, well, thank you very much to our candidates. I want to try to get you out of here as close to on time as possible, so we're going to go ahead and do our closing. I started with the introduction here, correct? So we're going to start with the closing of Lisa and go on down the line for our candidates.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Chrissy. We have one statement. I don't have a question. It kind of goes back to when Kyle talked about the two places from Philadelphia. I just want to point out that I won't say it's there while they are coming here, but in Philadelphia, this is in place. where they cannot discriminate against the source of income, so they come somewhere where that is not a thing.
I agree with you. I agree with you.
I just think that maybe we look into what Philadelphia is doing, since those people are buying the biggest things we have here. So we look into the ordinance that they have around the city of Philadelphia has around it.
Thank you for that, Natalie.
Yeah, thanks for that info. I want to thank everyone for being here tonight, for letting us be here. I just want you to know I'm here to work hard, and I think I'm the kind of person that can bring people together and really achieve some of our goals. We've adopted a strategic master plan, an arts master plan, a parks master plan, and you all know about the downtown master plan. We're actively implementing all of these, and I would like to continue to be a part of that process. If anyone wants to reach out, communicate, chat, please do. I also urge you to watch the commission meetings. Everything that's in the paper, while I love the State Journal, may not always represent everything that's in the meetings. So just please pay attention, be engaged, and just thank you for having me. I would be honored to have your vote in November.
Thank you so much, Lisa.
Thank you.
Kelly?
Thank you again, Christy. I thought I saw Ed here.
He left.
Oh,
Yes, he
okay, all right. FORR, Focus on Race Relations, South Frankfort Neighborhood Association, thank you all so much. Look, this has been really exciting for me, I'll be honest. This opportunity that I was given to serve the people of this community. I'm born and raised here. My family has been here since its founding. And it is truly something that I believe, seeing the amount of people coming through, and like I was talking about earlier, telling us what a gym we have, I believe that. But I'm not so naive to know that we don't have a lot of work to continue to do. I'm proud of the work that we have done. Things, you know, like we just saw approving for the police force having their new VR simulator training coming in, and that is not just a, you know, people will say that's a duck hunt simulator. It's not. You go through scenarios that help train on complicit biases and implicit biases. You can do real world scenarios now. And these are things that we can correct in a training room rather than out in public. And it's important that we be proactive, and I'm really excited for the opportunity to continue to serve you and excited for where this community's going. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Kelly. Kyle?
Chrissy, thank you, and thank you to FORR and South Frankfort Neighborhood Association for hosting this. I think it's really great that organizations put these on so that people can get to know the candidates that are running for office. I know that I sometimes come across as doom and gloom, and that I'm the guy that's negative. It's not that I'm negative at all. I'm very positive. I love my hometown. I love this city. I want to raise my children here. I want my grandchildren to be raised here. I want to thank Kelly for reminding me so much that he thanked his lovely wife and children, and I did not. It made me feel awful. My five children and my lovely wife, Jen, you did much better than me. But there are things that we need to do to change the path of Frankfort. And a couple of those ideas are very simple. We need an arts and convention center on the river, our greatest natural resource. We should build a public-private funded amphitheater on parcels B and C that is also partially owned by a company like Live Nation. It's done all over the country, makes tons of money. Chris Stapleton can be in Corbin, he can be in Frankfort. We should combine several city and county operations and resources, including our parks and arts departments, waste management and planning, and we must have an open discussion with state and federal officials about the advantages that have been taken of Frankfort over the last 224 years and be compensated properly for that.
Thank you so much. Don?
I want to thank you also to the South Frankfort Neighborhood Association and to FORR for the opportunity to be here tonight. I think it's great when neighbors can get together and talk about the issues. The focus of my campaign is to grow Frankfort's economy and enhance the quality of life so that we'll have increased job growth. So we'll increase our housing stock and have more recreational activities for families that will make Frankfort an attractive community for both the people that live here now and the people that can move here in the future when we have good jobs to offer them. We can achieve these goals if we work together. I think in my past experience with the boards and commissions that I've been on, with the neighborhood association, etc., I've shown that I can work with people, that I can bring a consensus, and I can get things done. And that's why I'm running for the city commission, because Frankfort is at a crossroads. We either grow or we become a ghost town. And growth is not necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes I think we think that we can either protect the environment or we can grow. They're not mutually exclusive. And I ask for your vote on November 8th. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And Patricia?
Thank you. First, I wanted to go back to Ms. Cleveland, I believe it was, her statement a few minutes ago, and just wanted to know that I was pushing on landlords, of people leaving and not keeping the things clean. That's why they didn't want to accept. But I also believe that the landlord should do their part as a landlord and keep it to where people will be prideful and when they pay rent, to make sure that that money is going back into the place where that person is doing as well. So I didn't mean to leave that out. But I've been ecstatic to serve you over the past almost 4 years as your city commissioner and mayor pro tem. I stand with my integrity. I stand with my transparency to represent you. I am here as to put you, the community, and our city and county as a priority. I will continue to work with the county and all of those constituents and all those business leaders in it as I have. I will continue to work on our relationship with Kentucky State University to move us in the right place. We have to use all of our assets in Frankfort and stop looking over the ones that are right in front of us. We have to stop arguing. We have to stop fighting each other and let bygones be bygones and know what the truth is in Frankfort and where we can go. We have to be ready for our infrastructure. We have to start using our waterways. We have to start making things build ready for this community. So thank you for allowing me to serve you these past 3.5 years, and I hope to look forward to serving you in the year to come. So I ask you for your continued vote, because I will continue to support you and make you a priority.
Guys, let's give all of our candidates a hand tonight. Thank you so much. Thank you all so much for being here. We do this for you, and we could not do this without you. So we genuinely thank you so very much for your attendance, your participation, your patience, and for our candidates' bravery for coming up here and doing this. Thank you all so much. Have a good night.